Hi, listeners. Welcome to Heaven Can Wait podcast. I'm your host, Morten Wolf. This podcast and my website all focuses on making you feel healthier, happier, and stronger, and often translating the latest in research into an easy, digestible form for you to follow. I will be inviting regular guests, and today we have a guest called Richard Lanigan. He is a chiropractor today, and he has three beautiful daughters called Molly, Isabel, and Eloise, and a stepson called Frederick. He went to Copenhagen in the early 80s. I think he was around 21 years old. And he went there on a holiday with his sister. And unfortunately, he got hit by a taxi shortly after and went into a coma for a month. And Richard and his sister was actually stuck there for a while. Richard didn't have any money. He went to the Danish government and they actually helped him out with some cash. So he could actually last a month out, which is typical for Denmark to help people out that are in need. And he actually ended up staying in Copenhagen for quite a few years, setting up a fitness business. And that was the time when the Jane Fonda video came out, and he made a great success of it. He met a guy called Ole Wissung, who was a newly graduated chiropractor, and he actually got introduced to chiropractic at that time. And in 1991, he studied at the Anglo-European College of Chiropractic in Bournemouth, UK, and graduated in 1996. And it was actually at the college when we were students that we met each other. And I want to get started with the podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Richard. Let's get on to it.
I love being a student. I would go back to being a student tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I have. That was one of the best times in my life. That was actually being
Yeah.
in Bournemouth and being
No,
there for
absolutely.
4 or 5 years. It was
Being
a
a
great
student
time. It
is
was
such a
great.
great life.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
You
Yeah.
know, if you're with a good crowd, and that is, I mean, we're going to talk about the cancer thing, right?
Yeah.
But that's what cancer taught me, how important the people around you are. Any wealth you have, a car,
Yeah. It doesn't
none of
matter.
that
It
matters.
doesn't matter at
It's
all. We didn't have
it's
any money
being
being there.
around people you
Yeah.
you like and
We
can
were all
have fun.
broke. I mean, I can remember I sometimes just had £1 to buy my dinner for,
Yeah,
I mean, that's the life that was there. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You make, it's like the guy said, if you've got lemons, don't cry because you want orange juice. Make
No.
really good lemonade.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
and
And you were
that,
still
yeah.
happy. Yeah. You
Yeah, no,
really
absolutely.
appreciate it a
You got
little.
you got to laugh every day. You got to have fun,
Yeah.
and you can find humor
Yeah.
under the darkest clouds.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
So, but I mean, then, just to go over to something that's a little bit more, I mean, you started getting you got diagnosed with IBS in 98 from your doctor. You had some bowel
No,
problems then,
no,
didn't you?
what it was I yeah, I'd been to Australia. Jeanette and I had gone to Australia diving, right, on the Barrier Reef,
On a
right?
holiday.
Yeah. And when I came back, there was something. I thought there was something wrong. And it was like that's what they call it IBS.
Yeah.
So in other words, I'd be constipated, I'd be diarrhea. There was something wrong, right? And looking back, I suspect that's when things were kicking off at a cellular level, right? So I didn't know, but there was
No.
definitely something wrong, and they
Yeah.
did a colonoscopy, and they said, oh, it's fine, and that's when they said, okay, there's nothing we could see, so it's just IBS,
Yeah.
stress. But I was not stressed in that period of my life. As I said, I didn't have children. Well, Frederick was, playing tennis, who's older, but nothing stressful. We were having holidays. We were two professional
Yeah.
people traveling the world. Every once a month, we'd go to Rome or Madrid or,
So life was
great.
good, actually, yeah?
Yeah, it was great,
Yeah.
So I, I mean, when I had my own practice, but I'd always said, because when I had sweatshop, right, we had a large debt to pay off, and interest rates were 18%
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I knew to avoid stress, when you start your own business, keep your overheads low, right? That's vital, right?
Yeah.
Do whatever you do, but just keep your
them low.
overheads low,
Yes. Yeah.
right? To get started, to get your name and your reputation out there. So there was no pressure on me, and I was making good money, and I was kind of, and but I was, the reason I was worried was because my mother had died of colon cancer in 1990, right? So it was on my head that, yeah, I could
Okay.
be predisposed to something like that. But they said it was clear, so that was fine. And I didn't really give it another thought. I kind of wished, looking back, if I hadn't gone then, if I'd gone 5 years later, then that would have been the time, because they would have seen polyps and they would have gone, oh, stage 1 cancer, and they could have done something and whatever. But it didn't start again till, I mean, it was weird because.
But it got better then at that time, did it?
What?
Did it get better, your symptoms then, with the diagnosis of IBS?
Yeah. You didn't know. Well, no, I wasn't. No, because it was just on and off.
Yeah, okay.
Shall we say it was on and off,
which is typical for IBS anyway.
Yeah, but see, this is the weird thing. If I was talking to people about health, everybody should take a picture of their turd, right?
Yeah.
A healthy turd.
Yeah.
So they have a reference point, because I didn't have a reference point. So something that was changing gradually over the years, I wasn't noticing.
No.
Right? Okay. I wasn't paying attention. So sometimes I'd have diarrhea or something. I wasn't really paying any attention to it.
No.
Right? And so then I had this really stressful period of my life when I was elected onto the General Chiropractic Council, right? Because, with all
the politics and all that, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, it's a regulatory body, and you're in there with 19 other people who can't stand you, right? You're on the council. No, that's not fair, because I got on well with Mark Cashley, Graham, but by and large, they hated my guts, particularly the chief executive, who was the most unpleasant woman, right? So
I know her,
I'm in there, and because, see, it was kind of funny, because now you see, kind of going on social media and saying bad things about people is quite acceptable, right? But I set up discussion forum before Facebook for chiropractors.
Yeah.
But most of them were afraid to go on it. But I was posting all this stuff. It was called Chiropractic Live, and it started about 2003.
Yeah.
So I was posting all the dirty stuff about the GCC on Chiropractic Live.
I have read some of it, yes.
Yeah. And so they went, but what's amazing now is they went to the High Court to get it all taken down, right?
Okay.
They went to the High Court because they said I was defaming the chief executive, Margaret Coates, and the body, because I was talking about the cases and how they were working and all this other stuff, and people had come in. But the people who'd come in and tell me stuff, they would use pseudonyms, right? And there was some stuff that was really, a bit, and it was kind of hard because I was responsible for everything. The way, Facebook says now, we just provide the platform. We're not responsible for the content. So they went to the High Court to kind of
get it put down.
But I said, hey, the funny thing was, I said, everything is true. You can't say it's defamation when it's all true, right? Even though it's like I said, I'm not saying Peter Dixon is a liar, but and then it's going. So you always say, I'm not saying he's a thief, but this is what he did, and you allow someone to draw their own conclusion. So it's how you express it and write it. So
that was a stressful time then, I can imagine.
Well, it was stressful because you're thinking if you lost, I mean, because then I made the mistake. I actually called the chief executive a liar, and I put in an email to all the council members. But I didn't realize to be a liar, it has to be deliberate and malicious, because you could make a mistake.
Yes, of
you
course.
could say, so she had told us something. Now, because I won't go in. It was because there was a guy called her deputy. His name was Greg Price, on the General Chiropractic Council. He became a member of the discussion forum, acting like an agent provocateur to get people and me to say something bad that we could get in trouble with the GCC, right? But when, and this is the weird thing, so the High Court, because some of the people who'd been posting on Chiropractic Live had made defamatory remarks. So the High Court gave the names of 4 people who I had to give their names to, make public, right?
Yeah.
So, and I felt really terrible because I'd promised anyone who came onto the site, it was confidential, you know. And now the High Court was saying, well, the High Court said I could leave all my posts up there because I posted under my own name. They said, okay, but you've got to give the names of these 4 guys, right? So I felt really terrible. And the techie guy, because I didn't know who they were.
No.
I had to get the techie guy who set it up to trace the IP address to the computer who had posted this stuff.
And that's how you found out then.
When it came up, I couldn't believe it, was from the General Chiropractic Council offices.
Awful.
And it was her deputy was posting. So suddenly it didn't really matter. I mean, it was so, you couldn't believe it. Because I was like, who'd be posting this stuff? Because it was like, he was talking like he hated the GCC, trying to get me to agree with him and say, yeah, and he did this, and, you know, make up war stuff, a bit the way Trump does it, right? Okay. But when this was posted, the GCC had to back off because it was very embarrassing for them. Greg Price resigned, but it always annoyed me that the British Chiropractic Association didn't follow it up, because that showed how deceitful the GCC was when they were going after different chiropractors and whatever.
So did you feel all this stress was partly also to blame?
Well, yes, right, because it was so stressed. I mean, and so when I got elected, see, this was the weird thing, right? So these people are going after me. They're hiring lawyers. They're taking me to the High Court. And within a year, I've topped the poll and been elected onto their council, right? And I'm in there, right? And they're going like, you know, so it's like classic where, you know, the poacher he's in the, you know, he's kind of right. And because they knew I was popular within the profession, and I wasn't one of them. I wasn't part of the establishment. And you know, it's like I said, I promised I would never wear a collar and tie to meetings. And I used to show up in Che Guevara t-shirts. And it just, you know, and they knew I was laughing at them, right? And so now I was able to look into the files. So I was able to see that they had spent, that High Court, £150,000 to try and get the post down. And now you see the way Facebook is, and everybody can post any sort of crap. And
was that the time you left then? The GCC?
Yeah, so that was, well, then I got kicked out because I called the chief executive a liar, right? So they all, you know, and that.
When was that then? What year was that?
That was 2008. And so then I didn't go off the register immediately because I didn't want them to conflate the two things and make up like I had been thrown off the register, you know? So I stayed on the register for another 9 months. And then when you were due to re-register, I didn't re-register. And then I went off. And that was when they hired private investigators to go into my clinic posing as patients. And they'd go, because I can practice chiropractic, but I can't use the title chiropractic.
So how do you get about that then? I mean, how's that? How can you do that? You can call yourself still a chiropractor.
Because I was involved in when they drew up the Chiropractic Act, and it was so badly written, you could drive a bus through it, right?
So you can't call yourself one, but you're allowed to practice it.
But I can practice because they were, they weren't able to agree on what chiropractic was, how it was practiced. So they decided, okay, let's just the title chiropractor, let's protect that, right?
Okay.
So the goal, because so they were hoping I'd call myself an osteomyologist or something. And I said, no, I've practiced chiropractic, I've trained. I said, well, you've got to take your qualification. You can't leave them up in the wall because that implies you're a chiropractor. I said, no, I'm not putting them up. So a private investor comes in, he's going like, okay, you know, as a patient, he's going, so what do your patients call you? And I go, they call me a chiropractor. Oh, right. So what do you call yourself? Now, is it patients don't come in asking you what you call yourself? So
no, they don't.
He goes, what'd you call yourself? And I go, Richard.
Yeah.
and the funny thing about it was, right? He's taping the whole thing, right? So he's making a report. So I knew straight away what they were doing. So the next day I put in a Freedom of Information Act to the General Chiropractic Council. I said, okay, what did you instruct private investigators? Because they had to answer. And because they were so confident, because that's how they catch people out. They were so confident in catching me, they admitted it, right? But when they saw the report, they realized how I was taking the piss, because he kept asking what I call myself. And I said, well, he said, well, I'd call you a chiropractor. And I said, well, you can call me chiropractor if you want, but I couldn't comment, right? I'm just calling myself Richard. And so, and this was all in the transcript.
Unbelievable.
Right?
Unbelievable.
So when under the Data Protection Act, the GCC was obliged to release the transcript. Okay. But Margaret Coates refused. And it took 2 years, and the Information Commissioner's Office had to force them. And that's why I got the whole transcript. And it was just so funny reading it, you know? And it just, what pissed me off more than that is the profession didn't care. I had all the paper, I had all, and I was kind of, oh, Richard, you did a great job, you're wonderful and whatever. So, and they didn't think I would just walk away, you know, because I was so involved. Because a lot of these jobs were, the politics of their lives. It's their feeling of worth. They're important, like Peter did. I'm really important. I'm president of ECU. I'm president of I did it because I wanted to make the profession better.
Yeah, you wanted to make a change.
Yeah, that's why I got involved. Yeah. And if everybody else didn't want to change, fine. Yeah, I'm out of here.
But that was a fucking stressful period. I mean,
oh, it was. You know, that was because when I called Coates a lawyer, right, and they got their lawyers on me, right. I mean, I could have lost their house and everything. You know,
was that the same time as you got was that at the same time you got the diagnosis and all that?
Well, it was just after that. So I go. That was quite scary. So I had to get myself a defamation lawyer. £500 an hour she was charging, right? Okay, because these are, you know, like the kind of cases you hear about in the High Court, people like Elton John and Max Mosley. And I had to get a defamation lawyer, right, to advise me. And this was the worst. I'll tell you, you know what the worst part is? I had to apologize.
Oh, God.
I have done some incredible things in my life, but the hardest was apologize to Margaret Coates, right? That just stuck in me, right? You know, I mean,
I can imagine.
You know, and I had to withdraw my comments and all that, but I did, and it was over with.
Yeah, you had to forget it. I mean, you had to move on from there.
And after that, I never opened a chiropractic magazine, and the politics, never went to any of their seminars, anything like that. And
how did you have the energy to do all this? I mean, because of course the diagnosis you had there, what was that? That was in 2013,
the diagnosis
wasn't it?
It was the following year that I got the diagnosis, right? And it was it was weird, but I just moved on. I threw myself into the chiropractic practice. I was busy. I was having fun. I had young children. again, life was great,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I didn't have any. It was liberating not to be involved anymore.
It
So
must
now
have
I
been,
was
yeah,
doing what I enjoyed. And
yeah.
it was real. I mean, it was really weird, right? Because I hadn't been in Denmark for about 10 years, right? And Ola's 50th birthday, right? It was November 2010. And he's gone, oh, Richard, come, you got to come to the party, right? And I was like, oh, because I was kind of in a comfort zone, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, right?
yeah.
And Denmark, November is cold and
Oh, yeah, it's
that
miserable
kind
over
of
there
thing,
in that
right?
time of year.
And he goes, right, and eventually, right, he persuades me, and I go, and it was an amazing week. I met all old friends, hadn't seen for years, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I felt young again, right?
yeah.
Because I was kind of on the crest of a wave. Everything was good, and yeah, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go back to Denmark more often, and it's going to be because Frederick wasn't living there at this stage, and
No.
I'd had a bit, and then I come back, right, and then I used teach a core stability class in a sport of fitness, right?
Yeah.
I patience and stuff. It was like one of the aerobic classes I used to teach in the 80s. It was on a Swiss ball. I used to even use the old music and stuff. And so, and I remember, and it was the 20, it was just before Christmas. It was the last session. And Arsenal were playing Man United. And so I went in early to watch the first half on the TV before
Yeah,
the class. And I had a cappuccino. And I'm doing the sit-ups. And I thought, Jesus, I had no energy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I could do a lot of sit-ups, and I was really struggling, after about, 30, right? I was, but I thought, okay. And I thought it was the coffee or something that,
yeah.
and I remember, and I was saying in the class, don't drink, because I was really struggling on all the exercise. And then, and so I was like, Christmas was okay because I wasn't doing any exercise or anything. And then in February, I play this guy in tennis, right? And I should have beaten him, and he beat me, right? And I was like, and I'm very competitive because I love playing with the young guys and beating them, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
sure.
this guy has, so now I'm thinking there's something wrong with me. I don't know what it is, right? And then, I mean, so much of this story that I'm writing in a memoir kind of fits. It was like I don't believe in God or religious, but my grandmother was. And so if my grandmother was looking at this story, she'd say, God is looking after you, right? That's her belief system.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that night, after looking at I was going to bed because at this stage, I blogged a lot. So I used to stay up because I could only blog late at night. So I was
Yeah.
blogging on the car break. So I'd often be up till 2 a.m. blogging, right? And so I was going to bed. It was about 2. And I was just looking at the TV, and I'm flicking the few channels. And there was a documentary about Bobby Moore, the footballer.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah.
And it was an old documentary. And for the life of me, I do not know why I decided to watch it, right? And I sat down and I watched it.
Yeah.
And she's talking, his wife is talking about how he, because his cancer was spotted really late. It was quite advanced when they found
Was that
his
bowel cancer, was it?
rectal cancer. It was the
Okay, the
same as
same.
mine,
Okay,
right?
same. Yeah.
And she said, for a long time, he used to complain that when he would poo, he would never feel he had finished.
No.
You know what I mean? He would just feel there was still poo in there, but
Yeah,
he
yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
get it
yeah,
out,
yeah.
right? And I was thinking, God, I feel that. I have that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it was so weird. So the next day, I made an appointment with the doctor, and I go, so I go in, right? My GP,
Yeah.
and he goes, so what are your symptoms? I said, oh, so I said, I tell him about my tennis, that I couldn't do the sit-ups, and he's going like, so how many sit-ups can you do? And I said, well, 100, right? And he's going, you're 55. Of course you got to feel tired after
Yeah, you're
30.
getting old now, Richard. You're getting
Well, exactly.
old.
He's
Yes.
telling me this. And I'm saying, yeah, well, what about the tennis, right? And I mean, he's looking at me like, oh, right. But I said to him about my mother. And so he examined me. And, he said, okay, look, I'm going to refer you to the consultant in Kingston.
Yeah.
His name was Ian Bloom, right? The expert in that.
Yeah.
So when he said, but you've got to say you've had these symptoms for 5 weeks because they wouldn't kind of act now. So I said, okay, that's fine, right? So I went to him and so they did a colonoscopy on me. And yeah, that was weird because it's funny, right? Because you remember when you're at college and you're doing anatomy, so you've kind of looked at a colonoscopy when you're doing pelvic, anatomy and stuff. So you kind of have an idea what it's
Yes,
like.
yes.
So because they didn't really think there was anything wrong with me, right? So I wasn't sedated during the colonoscopy. I was awake. So I'm looking at the screen, and you kind of see all the pink material, and
yes, the lining and all, yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and it felt like he put the probe up about 2 meters, right? Because he was doing it for, but like you're looking and it's all pink, and you're kind of feeling, because I knew from because just before, because this had gone on, say, about 4 weeks since my original camp, and I'd actually seen a streak of red blood in my poop, right? And so, and I knew again from college and differential diagnosis, red blood meant it was at the end. It would be black if it was further up.
Yes.
So because I thought he'd gone about 2 meters into my colon and I had red, I thought, oh, it's nothing. Oh. It's probably just piles or something, right? That was what, it's nothing.
Yeah, which would just be a normal thought,
And I'm looking at the screen, and then I see, oh my God, right? There was this white lump. It looked like a nose, right? It looked like a nose, a white nose. It didn't look like it should be in, because all the tissue was kind of pink with little veins running through it.
But it stuck out. It stuck out, basically.
Yeah. There's this, this white thing, and there's what I could only describe as kind of diluted blood. So it's got kind of mucus and blood mixed in it, and it's kind of on the tip of the nose, and it's kind of dripping. It's not like bleeding, but there's drip into it, and I'm like, oh shit, right? So I go to the guy, right? And so the guy who's doing it, he was young. He hadn't done many of these, right? No. So I go to him, what's that, right? And I look at him, and he's looking at the ceiling, and he's going, I don't know. We'll have to biopsy it. And I go, are you a doctor? And he goes, yes. I said, you've never seen anything like that before? And he's like, why? You could see him thinking, why isn't this guy sedated? I don't want to talk to him.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And then he goes, he's humming and hawing. I said, what do you think? And he says, it doesn't look good. And I went, okay, thank you. And he then, the nurses come, and they've arranged for me to have scans and data, So I knew it was cancer, right? And so the next 2 weeks, have MRIs, CT
horrible period of time, yeah.
And so then I have the meeting with Bloom, the results, right? Okay. So Bloom, he didn't know what I knew, right? He thought he was just going to tell me I had cancer, right?
But you knew that already, yeah.
So I'd asked a friend to go with me, right, who I trained as a teacher with, because I didn't want to go with Jeanette, because I thought if she got upset, I'd get upset and I wouldn't process all the information. So I asked my friend Richard Park, and he could take notes, and I could just ask questions and he could write everything down.
Yeah.
And then I could look at it afterwards. So we're sitting, and the day before, Rich is kind of a macho friend of mine. So the day before, his wife popped into the clinic. She says, "Oh, Richard's a bit embarrassed." And I said, "What?" "That they'll think you're a gay couple, right?" And I kind of laughed and I said, "Oh, right." I said, "That's the least of my worries, you see." Right?
Yes, of course.
So the two of us go up anyway, right? So we're sitting outside waiting to go into the room. And so the Rich says to me, he goes, "If he comes in wearing a black hat, you're fucked," right? Okay. So I kind of laugh. Yeah, you know, because if they sentence someone to death, I don't know, maybe they don't.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Black,
Yeah.
they put a black hat on and they say, "Okay, you're going to be sentenced to be hanged." Right? So I'm laughing. And at this moment, Ian Bloom walks in and there's two women behind him. And he's kind of not expecting me sitting there laughing, right? You know, because he's about to tell me I got cancer.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So I go, "Oh, at least you're not dressed like the Grim Reaper," right? And it kind of took him, because when they tell someone they got cancer, they have kind of bullet point how they tell it to you, right?
Yes, they have a certain way, yeah.
Because they've only got 10 minutes. And then if you're really upset, the Macmillan nurses take over because he's got to go to the next appointment.
Yeah.
You see? So he's taking a bit aback, me saying, "You're not dressed like the Grim Reaper," you see? So he goes, "Well, no, right? You know, when it's, you know," and then he kind of goes, "Well, you know, it's only when it's all bad news." He goes, we dress kind of joke. So when he said that, I knew it's not all bad news. He's going to tell me I have cancer, but it hasn't spread, right? Okay, so I go, right? So I go, "It hasn't spread." And he's like, "I haven't got to that, you know, right? You got to tell me, right?"
You took him, you were stepped in front of him, yes.
Yeah. He's going, "No," right? And I go, "Was this caused by anal sex?" Right? I go to the consultant.
Richard.
and Richard, who's taking the notes, he goes, "Oh no." He goes, "Oh," and he starts shouting. He goes, "Oh, you're such an idiot." He goes, "You think everything's a big joke, right?" And I swear, the two Macmillan nurses who are sitting there, they don't know who to go to, because they know I'm the patient, but if Richard needs comforting, he's really upset. And the consultant is stood there and he doesn't know what to say. And the Macmillan nurse comes over to me and she takes my hand and she goes, "You know, this is a serious disease." And I go, "Yeah, but I'm not going to die next week." So it's, you know. And it was really weird. And so then they make an appointment for me to see the team, you know, all the people. And they say, I mean, I was shocked because, I don't know, I thought they would just cut it out and that'd be over with, right? And they said, "Okay, you're going to have surgery," right? No, first you're going to have pre-surgery radio and some chemo. And then you're going to have the surgery. And then if it had gone to lymph nodes or stuff, you're going to have chemotherapy, and it's going to take a year. And I'm like, fuck, I thought it'd be over in a few months.
Yes,
right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's going to take a year. This is 2010. So here we are 10 years later and I'm still talking about it. So I go, and he's telling me all this stuff about how involved it is. And I go, so there's about, let me see, there's about 3-4 doctors in the room.
Yeah.
There's about 2 nurses and me. And I'm sitting there and I go, so they've told me the whole plan. And I go, "So what do you think of homeopathy?"
Did you?
Yeah.
It's only you that can do that, Richard.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have seen their faces, man. Right. But I'll tell you, right, I'll always, because I didn't know how they were going to react. And actually went, oh, yes, we're very open to all
All,
holistic therapies. Just as long as you got to do ours as well.
yes.
Do anything you want, just do it.
On top
And
of that,
actually,
yes.
it was where he earned my respect with that response, because I thought they were going to go, "Are you mad? We just explained everything, and you want to take homeopathy, right? Right?" So and so that was, basically I
Man,
started
the
the treat.
process.
I know they all say to this day they've never had a patient like me. Right?
No, but you are an extremely unusual individual
Yeah,
anyway.
they never had. They all remember me years later, because I was.
They will never forget you, man.
No.
No.
And you think of all the patients they've seen over the years and whatever, they all remember me. And because I often, if I'm ever near the hospital where I had the chemo, it was on the first floor. It's called the William Rouse Ring, and I always go up to chat to the nurses because I got on well. The consultants always took themselves a bit too serious, but the nurses appreciated my humor because they liked. I always made fun, because you can imagine when you're in this big room and when you have chemo, you have these armchairs and they plug everybody into it and everybody's tense. And then there's me who's always making jokes. And
are you sitting with other people there, or are you sitting on your own?
Yeah, you're always sitting with other people.
Okay.
They're like, when you have chemo, it's like you sit in an armchair. And so in the place in Kingston, it's probably about 15 chairs. It's like, because you sit there for about 4 or 5 hours,
Okay, that's a long process.
It's kind of just, I don't know. It's like getting a blood transfusion or something.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
You sit there, and it's just this kind of chemical is pumped into you slowly, and you kind of hear it buzzing all the time. It's a weird experience.
Yeah, but you didn't really get on with the chemo at all, did you? I mean,
well, they tell me I did. This is the funny thing, because that didn't come up. In 2011, I had all the normal treatment, right? Okay, that everybody would have. And then in 2012, I was given the all clear, right? I was given the all clear between just after the Olympics and the Paralympics.
Yeah.
And to celebrate, I went to Denmark, right? And so some friends threw a bit of a party. And it was the day that it was announced that Lance Armstrong took drugs.
Okay, yeah, okay. I can remember that, yeah.
And I was there, and they were all kind of saying how shocked they were, and I was going, "No way, he didn't take drugs, right?" I was Lance Armstrong's last defender, and I said, anyone who'd done chemotherapy, you're just mentally stronger than everybody else, right? And they were kind of go, "Oh," because one of them was friends with Ralph Sorensen, and he goes like, "Oh," right, because like a lot of people had been done for drugs, and we're going like, "Oh, everybody."
Yeah, everybody does take it in there.
So he goes like, "Are you seriously saying the greatest cyclist of all time was the only one who was clean?" And I go, "Yeah." Right? And I'll prove it. So there was a photographer there, sports photographer, and he'd taken pictures on the Great Wall of China Marathon. And I said, "I'll prove we're mentally stronger, and I will do the marathon on the Great Wall of China that he showed us the pictures about."
Yeah.
And they all started laughing, because at that time, after the chemo, I could only walk about 100 meters, and they were all having to drive me around, right? I couldn't even walk to the bus stop. So I said, "Are we going to?" And said, "Well, when are you going to do it?" I said, "Okay, when's the next one?" And the next one was on the 18th of May, which was about
13, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 7-8 months ago. And they're going like, "Oh, right, that's impossible," right? And they were all laughing. So Ola, who does the Ironman, he goes, "Okay, I'm going to." He said, "Don't worry, Richard. When you get tired, I'll give you a fireman's lift and I'll carry you around the course. So at least you can tell everybody you completed."
So you went with him, yeah?
So yeah, he came and a few others, and it was nobody thought, because as we got closer to it, because Klaus, the photographer, he got really concerned because he felt he had encouraged me to do it.
I pushed you.
But like, when you're on the wall, if it's a hot sunshine day, it's like being a pizza oven, because a lot of the stones are light colored and it reflects the sun on
the heat, yeah.
And so he was, because he'd been, I don't know, his name's Klaus Sleding Jensen. He was a top handball player and he's a photographer now. He's like 2 meters tall. He's a huge guy. But he was never known for his fitness as a handball player. So he's like, oh, Richard, I don't think you should do this. I don't think, because he didn't want to be held responsible.
No.
Right. So, but anyway, cut a long story, I did it, right? And so I was, so 3 months after doing the marathon on the Great Wall, I had a checkup. It was a year after getting the all clear.
Yeah, that's a normal process. Yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
So I go up. Now, I had just done the marathon. So for the first time ever, every time I ever had a meeting with the consultant for results of scans, everything, I brought my friend Rich with me to take notes. Yeah. This was the first time I had ever gone on my own, right? Okay. So I go into the consultant. Yeah. And she goes, so how are you feeling, Mr. Lanigan? I go, oh, I feel great. I haven't felt this good in 20 years. I lost weight. I ran 10 miles yesterday, right? Really fast time. Everything was hunky-dory. My life was brilliant. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And it was weird. And I'm telling her all this. And I'm wearing the T-shirt I got when I'd done the marathon. I want her to sign it because this is going to be my Facebook profile.
Right? Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I'm all happy, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you, right? Now, this is weird because, okay, if you've ever been to the marathon, I mean, it's really difficult to find a parking space, right? There's loads of cars there. It's like a big factory. It's like a car factory. So, and I'd found this place. If I drove this small car, and it was where you park the bicycles, and I could fit the car just into the side there, right? But it wasn't a parking space.
No,
but it was one I'd invented for myself, right? It wasn't obstructing anybody. It was a perfect place. I always parked there. So when she said she's got some bad news, I thought she was going to tell me I couldn't park there anymore and they'd clamp my car, right? And she goes, that was what came into my head. And she goes like, I'm afraid the cancer is back. It's incurable, right? Okay. And
how she said it or what?
Just how she said it. To be fair, right? Okay, this consultant was not my normal consultant.
No.
Again, she was my normal consultant. Is years of experience. She would know. This woman wasn't experienced. No. She hadn't told someone that. So it made the whole thing worse. So she'd gone, so how can it be? How can it be? And I remember, and she handed it the scan report. So I don't know, if I had a patient and I was that the cancer had metastasized. So the first place I would think of would be the liver. So because I got, is it the liver?
That's normal, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a liver.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Brain. Oh my God, it's in my brain. No. Right. And then she just handed me the report to read. Right. So I'm reading. It's not there. It's not there. It's not in my lungs. I don't think where it was. And then, I honestly, right, talking like it's what is it? 7 years ago. It's like yesterday. Like, and I can say, and then there's the unfortunately, right? So there's all the clear, and then unfortunately, it had metastasized to the all the lymph nodes around the aorta, right? And they can't remove them surgically because it's so near it's called Tiger Land.
Yeah,
you go there, it's so dangerous.
They're grown into the aorta itself.
Yeah.
Attached to the wall.
So, because well, I don't understand. How can that be incurable? Because it's only some lymph nodes, right? And I'm going like, how many lymph nodes to her, right? And I remember her saying, right? And it was really weird. She went, they're not tennis balls. That was her word,
Oh.
right? I was trying to get my head around.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, and because lymph nodes, okay, that's only stage 3.
Yeah.
Why were they saying this was incurable? It was, like cancer having spread to lymph nodes. It was
Understand
in
the
lymph
brain
nodes.
and the liver and
Yeah,
everything else.
right.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get my head to understand this, and I remember, like, and I'm going, how many? And that they were her exact words. They're not tennis balls. And so now I was kind of, I thought, no, I got to get out of here because I'm starting to feel aggressive now, and I don't understand. And she's not, because we were to go on holiday the following day. And I'd actually said to them, I didn't want to be, they didn't have to give me the result till I'd come back from the holiday, right? I mean, I didn't think there was anything going to be wrong, but I just wanted to go on the holiday. Yeah. It was just the inconvenience the day before of having to go up to the hospital. But now I was really pissed off that she decided to tell me I'm dying the day before I go on the holiday, right? So, and I remember, so when I came out, I called Jeanette, my partner, right? And she goes, how'd it go? And I go, it's not good. It's not good. I mean, this sounds really unbelievable. I go, the cancer is back. It's incurable. And they've given me 22 months to live, right? And Jeanette goes, stop messing about, right?
Yeah, because you sometimes mess about. You do.
Well, yeah. And I go, I'm not messing about. And she said, it's not funny, right? And she kept, this went on for about 10 minutes. I said, no, I'm serious, right? And she's going, stop it. I'm not laughing, right? Okay, what did they say, right? But there's a lot of reasons why she didn't believe me. I mean, when we had twins, I told her there were boys and there were a boy and girl.
Yeah, you like kidding.
The woman told me because I was always making up stuff. Yeah. So, and then she said, swear on the girl's life. And I said, I swear on the girl's life. And then she knew it was true. And then it was quite emotional. It was weird. It was weird. Yeah. And because and then we were going on the holiday the next day.
Oh, you went on holiday?
Yeah, no, we did. We were going to Italy. It was all arranged, right? And it was. I'll tell you, right, what was funny about? Well, funny, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
My proper consultant, right? Oh, we had a place in Rome, and then we went down to Pompeii, and we booked a place in Ischia for a week. It was a lovely holiday. So I'd have gone.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is be at home, right, with something like this hanging out. But the weird thing, and it just shows that, how your mind works so when I was there, my consultant came back from holiday and she called me. And I remember the day she called me because we were on the beach in Ischia, right? And she called me and, confirmed everything.
Yeah.
And that was the day it really hit me. Because deep down, I was just hoping maybe they'd got the X-rays.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Maybe they'd mix me up with someone else. You know what I mean? Because I felt great. I mean, that was the weird thing. I felt fine.
Great. Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with me.
No.
I was running. I was fit. I was.
You've just been doing the wall of China, the wall of China. Yeah.
And now they're, it was weird. And I remember, and that day, I was deflated. I remember when we were going back from the beach, because think like, oh, and this is a part of healthcare the medical profession do not understand. Like that you can be up, something they tell you or how they tell it can affect your mindset. And I am certain that affects the prognosis. Major.
But I think you can only understand that when you are in that situation because they haven't been in
it. Yeah. I mean,
I can't even imagine myself.
Yeah, because the radiotherapy I had damaged discs in my back. right? So about 3 years ago, I had a really bad disc prolapse. And, I mean, oh, it was, real serious pain.
Bad,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
went to the consultant in St. George's. It wasn't that I wanted surgery, but I wanted to know what the options were if I went down that. Because let's face it, back surgery ain't a good look for a cop. But I was in a lot of pain. And this was, like all the patients over the years we've seen with disc prolapse back, because I'd been to about 5 chiropractors, nothing had helped,
No,
right?
no.
And so there I'm talking to him, and he said to me, "Can you suck up the pain for 2 years?" And I said, "Yeah." Right? I said, because as long as it would end in 2 years, as long as
Then
there
you
was
can cope.
light.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because there's hope.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
If there's some hope, you can deal with anything,
Yes, you
right?
can. Yeah,
And I said, yeah, and the severe pain actually didn't, it would come and go,
yeah,
for 2 years, but the severe pain only lasted a few more months, and
yeah, yeah.
I found ways of managing. And one of the things I found was, in an inversion table.
Yes, yes, I do know that. Yeah,
I bought one of them, 30 quid on eBay. And,
yeah.
I have it in my clinic.
You still have it. Yeah,
Yeah, because if I found that was amazing. Hanging upside down for 5 minutes on that, right?
yeah,
It made a huge difference
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
disc problems.
Bit of traction
But
there.
but as you say, and that was in terms of my patients, because when I was seeing patients and they'd come in and they'd go like, "Oh, I've had 3 treatments. Why is my back better?" And I want to say, "Hey, you think I give a shit, right?
Yeah,
Let me tell you about my cancer and
yeah,
how bad
exactly. Yeah,
that
but you
is.
can't do that. I mean,
Back
yeah,
pain is nothing." However, after I'd experienced my disc
disc.
prolapse, etc., it did, change how I was
Yeah,
towards patients with back pain, because I had lost empathy
yeah,
because of my own cancer.
yeah,
And I felt kind of bad about that, right? When
yeah. Of course.
people were in pain with their back and
Yeah,
whatever, and you're,
and you
you know,
experienced
I,
something that was 100 times
yeah,
worse.
well,
Yeah,
exactly. But if the only thing you've ever experienced is back pain, that is the worst thing
yeah.
in
Of
the world.
course, any pain, a toothache is the worst thing if you not
Exactly,
experienced anything else.
exactly. And again, that's, because I had never really had health problems except, when I did my knee in Denmark. So it was kind of really weird suddenly to be in this position. And the strange thing, because as I look back now, the treatment that I had, right, where the chemo, the radio,
Yeah.
okay, I got a malignant melanoma from the radiotherapy.
Okay.
I got the disc prolapse.
Yeah.
I got gout because of the
Okay.
chemotherapy.
Yeah.
I got a peripheral neuropathy, so
Yeah.
I still haven't got most of the feeling back in my feet. I've got most of it back in
You
my
had
hands.
something in your hands, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, my hands
Yeah.
like now, it's a kind of a woolly. It's like
Feeling.
I was
Yeah.
wearing a silk
Gloves.
glove,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I can't feel really soft things,
No.
right? But I can
Yeah.
palpate,
Yeah.
and
You can do the
you know,
chiropractic
but
things.
but
Yes.
but I couldn't. As one period, I completely had no feeling in my hands,
Oh.
and you're there and you're trying to put coins in a parking thing,
And you
and
can't
you're
feel it.
dropping them,
Yeah.
and you're in a shop and you put your hand in your pocket and you can't find the money, and then you look on the floor and it's all on the floor
And
because
shirts,
you
the
put.
shirt buttons and so
Oh, I
on. I
couldn't
mean,
button it.
no,
One
no,
day I
no.
was in a rush into the clinic, right? Okay, and I put on a button because I stopped wearing button shirts,
Yeah.
and I couldn't button the shirt, so I had to leave it open until I got into. I couldn't,
No, no.
and because I could do lumbar adjustment, and because you're kind of
Yeah.
pushing,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and because I didn't see during this time I didn't see new patients, because that was the other thing, right? Uh, During the first period, I had a colostomy bag for 12 months, and that was
Yeah.
all. And so if I saw a new patient, because you had no control when it filled up.
No.
So you'd be sitting there with a new patient, and suddenly you're, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And they're
Okay.
wondering, like, can you imagine you're sitting there with a new patient, and you start farting?
They wonder what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I hated seeing new patients. While my my
Existing ones.
regulars, my maintenance, they didn't mind, and the fact, that,
And they knew about it, did they?
yeah, they were okay, because I
Yeah.
said to them that, because Neil Riley was working in the clinic at the
Yeah.
time, and I said, okay, you can, so they were happy to continue. And I enjoyed, because a lot of them were people I chat to. I was only seeing about 10.
Yeah, but it's also getting your mind off things a bit,
No,
that
absolutely,
you can,
absolutely.
yeah.
And but it's weird looking back at how many health problems that the actual treatment. I've never had health problems from the cancer.
No.
It was the actual treatment
that messes you
caused
up.
me all these things. I mean,
Yeah.
and the funny thing was, when they diagnosed the malignant melanoma, and I got like, God, and the reason it was caught very early. It was right at the start. And the reason was, it was right next to, when you have radiotherapy, they put a little tattoo on you, a little cross,
Yeah.
permanent.
Where they
it's a small little
put the
mark.
radiation, yeah.
But and because I'm covered in freckles, being Irish and stuff, and one of the freckles just turned from a brownie to a kind of a grey color. And I was looking at it, and it was right next to the tattoo.
Was that on your back?
And I thought, no, fortunately, wasn't it? It was on my side.
So you could see it.
It was a little to the back.
Yeah, you could see it.
If it had been the back, I probably wouldn't have noticed it.
No.
Right? Because it was the tattoo part was just to a bit to the side. It was going around the back, but it was just to the side.
But did it itch then, since you discovered it? I mean,
no, it was just the color. It was the color, I thought. And it was because occasionally, because it was weird. I had told the kids I was going to get a tattoo of Popeye the Sailor Man.
Yeah.
When I recovered.
Yeah.
Right. And I was going to get it because they were quite excited. The idea I had a tattoo.
Yeah.
But the tattoo was just this little cross.
Yeah.
Because, again, I was just talking about the mental aspect. When I was initially diagnosed, I mean, obviously you feel awful.
Yeah,
and I was just like anybody else would be. And I asked, we had a hypnotherapist working in the clinic. So, because I was walking around like I was dying,
Yes,
I
course.
mean, no energy, no strength.
No.
It was weird. I was dying. I felt like I was dying, and it was all mental.
Yeah.
So I had a hypnotherapist, and I asked her to do something with my mind. And so she hypnotized me. And during the thing, it came out that when I was a kid, my favorite cartoon character was Popeye the Sailor Man. And that was quite appropriate, because when Popeye is near to death, he finds a tin of spinach and it gives him strength.
Yes.
So every time I would have the black thoughts about dying, I would think of Popeye. And I would find a tin of spinach.
Yeah.
And it was quite symbolic, because I was also changed. I was kind of, particularly in that first year.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't touch sugar. I wouldn't touch a bacon sandwich, red meat.
You lived healthy.
Really healthy. That year, the year like before I was diagnosed terminal.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That year I was eating the perfect diet, anti-cancer diet, everything. Right. I did everything by the book that people tell you should do. Yeah. And the cancer came back. And I look at that and I wonder retrospectively, because I pushed myself so hard to do the marathon, that I should have been recovering and allowing my body time to heal. I pushed it because as we talked about, I was trying to get away from stress.
Yeah.
And then I'm given the all clear.
Yeah.
And I put myself, because I wanted to prove to everybody I could do that marathon. And of course it was an extraordinary achievement in such a short time.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But and looking back, it was probably crazy. You know what I mean?
No, I can see that.
My lots of things I've done in my life.
It's been crazy.
So but retrospective is great
Yeah,
vision.
but it was you needed mentally, basically, wasn't it?
No,
To prove that you,
absolutely. I
yeah,
needed a
exactly.
challenge, and
Yeah,
I have no regrets about that. But
no,
I do wonder
if that had
if
something
you
to
know
do with it
that
too.
was a factor.
Yeah.
You know.
So I mean, you stopped then the chemo, didn't you? I mean, and then
Yeah.
when
So
I mean, you I can understand you also met a fortune teller, didn't you?
oh yeah, God, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
That
told you something. I
again,
mean,
right? But that's yeah.
when was
Well, the
that in there?
fortune
When
teller.
was
Well,
that in this period? When
the
was
fortune
that?
teller came first, right? Because what it was, okay. So the consultant said, "Look, 22 months. That's with chemo,
Yeah.
right?" And I didn't like I didn't know what to do, right? I mean, like it was such a shock. You
Yeah.
thought I had beaten cancer.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And then to be told, no, you haven't. You're
No,
just
no,
because
no.
I thought I was the special one, right? I had beaten
Yeah, yeah,
cancer,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
had done this
Of
marathon, and
course.
I'm a Superman, right?
Yeah. You're Popeye the
And
Sailor Man.
because I had told the story and documented on Facebook, I liked everybody telling me how amazing I was, and
Yes, of course.
like, oh,
Understandable.
unbelievable what you've
Yeah.
done, and whatever. And I remember when I told Rob True, he's a chiropractor in Battersea.
Yeah.
When I told him, the day I told him I got the terminal diagnosis, he went, "Oh, fuck. I just spent an hour talking to someone, telling him your story, right? Because they'd just been diagnosed with cancer." He goes, "What? Now I got a real mo against it. Oh, no, he's going to die, right? He's just
Yeah,
going to."
yeah. Has to change my
And,
story now.
and it was interesting. When I told Ola, right? And Ola went, right? And it was weird because Ola does a lot of motivational speaking and stuff in Denmark.
Yeah.
And Ola's going, right? And I remember he said, "Oh my, Richard, you make me sick, right? Okay. You weren't satisfied with beating stage 3 cancer.
No.
You just want to push it to the wire and beat stage 4 cancer, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, oh yeah, wouldn't that be great, right? Yeah, that'd be fun, because it sounded great. But I'm thinking, yeah, that's the kind of thing you say at a motivational seminar, right?
Yeah,
but this is real life, mate, right?
Yeah.
Nobody. I had looked. And like when you've got cancer, oh, you shouldn't go on the internet.
No,
it's
you
all
get
bad.
it's
all bad news. And I'd read nobody had lived 4 years, right? Nobody with that metastasis and diagnosis.
Yeah.
Nobody had lived 4 years. So 22 months was a kind of an average life expectancy. So, and another friend, and it was interesting because my Facebook profile when I was running the marathon was Rocky Balboa running up the steps. You remember in Rocky?
Yes.
And Terry goes, "Richard, for Christ's sake, there was about 7 Rocky movies. You've only done 1, right?
Yeah.
And again, you're talking about the mental thing, but all that, kind of,
Yeah.
It's not to say, "Oh, Jesus, right? That's terrible. I'm really sorry for you," right?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I had nothing else, right? I'm still thinking in the biomedical model, I had nothing but chemo, right? So I had agreed I would have more chemo, right? Okay. And she had said I wouldn't get the peripheral neuropathy. They would change the mix of chemicals or something.
So it wouldn't be so bad. Yeah.
I wouldn't get, and she was, but so okay, right? I'll have the chemo, right?
Yeah.
Another 12 cycles of chemo, right? So,
and you had that.
then I started the chemo, and within 2 cycles, 3 cycles, I started getting the tingling, the numbness, full on. I could, and because when it was completely numb, I couldn't work, right, at all, right. And so I said, okay, right. And the day before this had happened, right, a fortune teller had come into the clinic, right, and he goes, oh, he was banging on about reading palms and tarot cards, and I'm not into any of this kind of
no.
So I thought, well, if I give him my hand, maybe that'll shut him up, right? So I give him my palm, and he's looking at it, right? And he goes, ooh, right? I see serious illness there. And I'm thinking, oh shit, Sherlock, I'm dying.
Yeah.
It was really weird. And I was thinking, God, I wonder, right, if this guy, because this guy didn't know me from Adam, right? So
No.
I'm thinking like, oh, right, But then he goes, and this was so weird. And he goes, oh, I see you pull through. And he shows me and he says, this is your lifeline,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
he
yeah.
goes, oh, it's a long one, right? 85, he goes. You're going to live to be 85, right? I'm like, Jesus. Now, right, okay. And this, I'm standing there thinking, this is a load of shit,
Yeah.
right? Okay, right. I'm standing there thinking, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, I bet if I was 20, he'd be saying, oh, I see a beautiful woman and 4 beautiful
Yeah,
kids and a big,
exactly. You can
right?
easily guess
So
something.
I'm
Yeah,
60 and he's seeing illness, right?
yeah,
And I'm
of
going to live to be
course.
85. But the thing was, it was like, do you know the movie Animal House?
Yes.
You remember the scene where he's got an angel and a devil on each shoulder?
Yeah,
And he's
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And
Go.
the ever,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And it was a bit like that. And I was thinking, I've got the consultant who says I'm going to die.
The other
And I've
one
got the
said,
fortune teller who says I'm going to be live to 85. The consultant, the fortune teller. Okay, I'm going to take the fortune teller, right? Now, of course, it's ridiculous, but it put a spring in my step.
"Yes, of
I
course."
and it changed because I hadn't told anybody, and I told close friends about the diagnosis, but I hadn't put it on Facebook yet, right? Okay. And I went on Facebook. I said, "Oh, I've had some good news and bad news. The bad news, the cancer is back. I'm back having chemotherapy. The good news is a fortune teller told me the consultant's full of shit, doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to live to be 85, right? And so
Yeah.
everybody
It's
kind of
just,
thought it was funny, right?
yeah,
But
of
the
course.
weird thing was, so I go, I have, because every 2 weeks you see the consultant, right?
Yeah,
When you're having radio. Right?
yeah.
So I told the consultant the story about the fortune teller, right? And he goes, "Yeah, like no,
Yeah, what? Yeah,
you
what
know,
should you? I mean, what
how
can he
ridiculous."
say?
Yeah, right? So I'm telling a story, right, about this fortune teller, right? And then I tell her I'm stopping chemo, right? And she's nearly in tears because I like my consultant,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
of course.
Okay,
Yeah,
she's
yeah, yeah. You have
what?
a relationship
What?
by
Right?
that stage.
I said, Richard, right? I said, look, I don't feel bad. I've got 22 months. And she's going like 22 months with chemo, and I might only be 6 months without chemo, right? And I remember her saying that as I've stood up and I said, look, she said, you're tolerating it really well. Because I can understand, people are losing their hair, but I'm already bald and
Ball, yes.
they're yeah, you know what I mean? So that wasn't, and like, oh, a little loss of sensation in your hands is nothing. They're sick. They can't, I was able to work more or less most of the time and,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of go on
yeah.
holiday, do this. So she's going, you tolerate it really well. And I said, don't worry, right? It's all going to be fine. The fortune teller said I'm going to live to be 85. And her face when I said it, and the Macmillan nurse who was in the room, because there's always a nurse, as I said to you, and
They
she
can't
started
relate.
laughing,
They
right?
can't relate to that, can they?
Because she knows how patients really, because she talks to more an emotional of the nurses, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so and like I'm there, nah, don't worry, I'm gonna live to be 85, right? And then yeah, it was weird that because I had the spring back in my steps. I didn't know what I was. I mean, like I said to you earlier about, like there was some divine intervention in this.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew was I don't want any more chemo, right?
And you didn't know about the cannabis at that time, did you?
No,
No.
right? 2 days later, and because I put this, because the story is so bizarre, but I've posted on the rectalcancer.me blog.
Yeah.
I've posted these. It was on Messenger.
Yeah.
Of the daughter of a friend, right?
Yeah.
Sent me from Denmark.
Yeah.
Sent me these tests. Oh, you've got to stop. And she didn't even know I had stopped chemo.
No.
Right? So I hadn't told her. She said, Richard, you got to stop chemo, right? Stop chemo and read this, right? And it was about taking cannabis for cancer treatment.
Yeah.
Now, if I had £1 for every miracle cure that people have sent me or advised me for about
Yeah.
cancer, I'd be a very rich man. And I've
Yeah, I can
tried some
imagine
of them,
so.
apricot kernels, diets,
Yeah, stand on your
oh,
head. Yeah,
they wanted
yeah.
me to go to some guy in Mexico and thing. And I remember I saw the way my mother had died, and she dealt with it pretty good. But I remember seeing a move, and that had made me interested in cancer stories. And you remember Farrah Fawcett Majors,
Yeah, we heard that. Yeah.
Charlie's Angel?
Yeah.
She died of anal cancer,
Yeah.
right? And 2 years of her life, and she made a documentary about it, right? So she was going to, she lived in Los Angeles, but she was traveling all over the world looking for a miracle cure,
Yeah.
right? She went to her whole life was last 2 years
Was focused on that. Yeah.
and she never got one. And she died in pain. And, it was just, and that's the end of the documentary. It's really sad. And I thought, I don't want to, look,
You don't want
I
to go
want
through
to
that, did you?
die. What?
You didn't want to go through that like she did you?
Exactly.
No.
Right. Because I didn't fear dying. I kind of feared, like, okay, if I was to die in pain or I wasn't compos mentis. So I decided if I didn't like the way it was going, I would go to Dignitas in Switzerland to
Yeah.
end it.
Yeah.
Right. But I wasn't, I was going to create good memories for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were going to have some great holidays, go, to Disneyland and New York and South Africa.
Day by day, yes.
Yeah, we're going to have all of these going to spend, because I was fortunate that I got, I had a critical illness thing, like for
an insurance.
That pays out if you get a serious illness. So I, and see, that's one of the awful things, when you go to the Marsden and they're charging you £2 an hour for parking, you got to be there for 5 hours if you're poor, right? Mm-hmm. But money was never an issue, so I got this, big payment. I think
it was less stress basically on that side.
Yeah, I got £180,000.
Yeah, that did help a lot.
To enjoy myself with.
Okay. Yeah.
And well, that was the way I was looking at it, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So we'd have holidays. We'd have a great time.
Yeah.
We'd blow it,
Yeah.
So, and we did, right?
Yeah.
And so I made, I kind of like, okay, so I'd made 3 goals. So this is the end of 2013.
Yeah.
So I've made 3 goals. The first is September 2015, my twins would start secondary school.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so that'd be September. Then it was March 2017.
Yeah.
That would be me 60 years of age.
Yeah.
And then there would be September 2017. That would just go over the 4 years. Because remember I said there was no...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would...
So that September was a month over the 4 years. And that's when Eloise, my youngest, would start second school. So I had those... They were the 3 goals I'd set.
Yeah.
Right? And then I get... So the few days after I decided to stop chemo, I get this email from this Danish girl. And she said, oh, read this about cannabis, right? Yeah, it was, but it was no different from, say, the apricot kernels. Or
yes, yeah, you read it. Like, you read it, yeah.
And everybody in Denmark is quite relaxed about cannabis.
Yes, exactly.
So I just thought it was interesting, right? And then a week later, I get another from a different completely different, again, a Danish woman.
Yeah.
Right. About cancer. And these 2 women did not know each other, right? They're not friends or anything, right? No. But it was another Danish woman sending me about cancer. I said, Jesus. But this was a study from the 70s, which showed that cannabis had an anti-tumoral effect.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of looked like it was positive, and they closed it down when they started the war against drugs under Richard Nixon, right?
Yeah.
And so all these kind of research programs into cannabis, the therapeutic, were closed down.
Yeah, we
right?
stopped. Yeah.
So when I'd read this and I thought, geez, that's, that's quite interesting and stuff. And, but then I was thinking like, oh, because it was weird. When I first smoked weed, I was 15. I was living in England, and it was really hard. Where do you get it? Because when I went to Denmark,
we all tried it at that age. Yeah.
Yeah, but like in Denmark, without a Christiania, they have their little weighing things, lots of different, Moroccan, black stuff, I mean, so it was much easier. So
like a vegetable market, yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, oh, because now I'm thinking it would be nice to try.
Yeah.
But where would I get it? How would, I didn't know, right?
No.
And so a week later, I get a phone call from a friend in Dublin, right? And he's quite a wealthy guy, right? And he tells me, oh, he'd just been diagnosed with prostate cancer, right? And he didn't want to have orthodox treatment. He wanted to have cannabis. Did I know anything about it? Because so he was calling me as a knowledgeable clinician.
Yeah.
I went to school with this guy, and he's going like, do you know it, right? And I go, yeah, I know a bit about, because I'd read this stuff.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And he's going, well, what do you think? And I go, look, it's early prostate cancer. The prognosis is really, really good with the medical people.
Yeah.
Just do that. If that doesn't work, then do the cancer. But I said, if you refuse their treatment now and start with cannabis, they're not going to be too happy if you go back to them.
No.
I go, no, I don't want to, it's going like, I don't want to have, I'm going to go with the cannabis. Right? So I go, okay, right? And back then, there was hardly anything about cannabis on the internet, except there was a Canadian guy called Rick Simpson who was talking about it.
Yeah,
so
I read
my
about him.
friend to ask me to look at the Rick Simpson video, right? And I look at it and I thought it's proper snake oil. It's like, it cured his cancer, it cures his granny's Parkinson's, it cured his epilepsy.
And I'm thinking, a whole lot,
But the funny thing is, it was very like, I was trying not to be too judgmental the way chiropractic, well, the way a doctor would be if I said, hey man, I've helped people with asthma. I've helped people with
that would exactly.
And I do the same thing every time.
Yeah.
I do the same thing, and I was kind of, it was weird. And I was kind of, I was thinking, Rich, if that was a chiropractor, would you be so judgmental? And I was thinking, well, actually, no, I'm probably being unfair. It's interesting. Anyway,
be a bit open-minded, yeah.
So my friend goes and takes it. He calls me, right? Oh God, He goes, oh, I can't do this, right? Because okay, it's difficult because I can't give you too much information about the friend, right? Because he's quite high profile.
Yeah. No, you don't have to. No.
So, and he goes, right? Because he couldn't work, and he was given testimony in Ireland at the time on publicly, and he goes like, he said, I can't do this, right? He said, because in the Rick Simpson they say take a gram a day,
which is a lot. I mean,
it's a lot. It's like smoking 20 joints.
Yes, exactly. You can't.
I since found out, right? Actually, you've got to build up very gradually, and it takes about 4 weeks.
Yeah, he couldn't function on that. I mean, that's too much.
No, he was off his face for literally 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he was really shocked. He said, he's going to go the orthodox way. And it was, I mean, it's weird the way everything falls into place. And I happened to be going to Dublin that weekend because the Jimmy Cosgrave, Albie Farnese, they had organized a Last Supper for me in Dublin.
Okay.
Right? You know Jimmy Cosgrave?
Yeah, I know him,
Right? Okay. They had organized because the ECU conference was in Dublin that week. So because they were all going and they could write it off, they said, okay, we're going to have the last, because it was to say goodbye.
Of course.
Right? So we all meet. So I happened to go to Dublin that weekend, right? And God, Jimmy made table mats of Leonardo's Last Supper,
Oh God.
and he put my face on Jesus.
Oh God.
And he made,
That's
honestly,
Jimmy, man. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know Jimmy
And he
from
made
college. Yes.
snow domes, snow domes
Yes.
with my image inside the
Oh,
snow dome.
oh God.
Everybody had souvenirs. Honestly,
Oh no, it was
it was
sweet,
one of,
man.
it was one of the funniest nights of my
Yeah,
life.
but
So
sweet though, sweet.
oh, it was great.
Yeah,
We're all in the, we're all in the restaurant eating, getting drunk, and when you're in a restaurant, you spend a lot of money, and the cleaners come in and they let you sit there till the very last, and then they clean away your
yeah,
area.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we're all sitting there, and we've had a lot to drink and stuff, right? And then Jimmy goes over, and there was 3 cleaners, and they're on minimum wage or something.
Yeah.
So he goes, okay, I'll tell you what, €50 if you can pick out the guy who's terminally ill.
Oh fuck, that's Jimmy, man. Yes, yes, that is Jimmy.
so,
Yeah.
so you can imagine, we're all sitting around the table drunk, right? And
Oh God.
the cleaners are thinking, that it's sick, but €50 is €50.
Yeah. Oh
The
God.
guys at
Yeah,
minimum
that's
wage,
money,
right?
man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they all have a go. Oh, it still makes me mad. So they pick out Ed Bates, Rory Hayes.
Rory also.
Yeah, they pick out
Oh
Ed Bates,
fuck.
Rory Hayes,
Yes.
and a Danish guy, Jan. He was president of the Dutch Chiropractic Association a few years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I know
really
him.
good
Yeah.
goalkeeper. But anyway,
Yeah.
they pick out those 3 guys, and nobody picks me, and we're in hysterics. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's quite funny. And the next day, then I meet my friend, because my friend goes, right, okay, so we're meeting for dinner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I meet my friend in a restaurant, and he goes, okay, he goes, Richie, he goes, look, do you want to try it? And I said, what? He says, the cannabis.
Yeah.
I go, oh yeah, nothing to lose, right?
Yeah,
And he had
no.
like 3 grand's worth, right? Okay, just
Yeah, that's
and
a
he
lot
goes,
at that
okay,
time. Yeah. Yeah.
right? He went, and I'm going, okay, let me pay for the dinner, because we were in this expensive restaurant. He goes, because the last thing he wanted to be was that he's also a drug dealer.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Because he was looking around. He was
Oh,
looking
yeah.
around to see if the paparazzi were there
Yeah.
taking
Of course.
pictures
If
of
he's a
us
well-known guy,
at the
yeah, that
dinner,
could
right?
be. Yeah. Yeah.
So he gives me the cannabis, right? And the weird thing is, I took it back on the plane because I didn't give it. Okay, the worst case scenario, they catch me. It seems, because I wouldn't do that now, right?
No. They're much more
To
stringent
smuggle
now.
it, because
Oh
I thought,
yeah.
okay, well, I was dying then. So I'd be, like, okay, what's the worst thing that we're going to do if they found the cannabis, right?
They're not going to
It
lock you up, are
actually,
they? I mean,
I was fairly relaxed about it. So
yeah.
I took it with me on the plane, and then I went back. Oh God, I mean, it seems weird. So the first day I said, okay, I took it. So I was going to do it like a proper scientific experiment.
Yeah.
So I would video myself, right? And I was kind of like,
Yeah.
so because of what I've been told not to, like he was off his face, I would take a small
amount. Yeah.
I mean, a little bit. Hey, I'm a child of the 70s. I'd smoked a lot of weed.
Yeah, you can cope with it.
So I took a small amount.
Yeah.
And so at 9 o'clock, and I'm videoing myself. Jesus, no, because when you smoke it, it hits you immediately.
Straight away,
right?
yeah.
And nothing happened, right? For an hour. It's 10 o'clock.
It takes longer. It takes longer.
Right? Not a thing, right? So a friend calls me up and he says, you fancy playing golf? And I go, yeah. All right. So, geez, I took some cannabis. Nothing's happened. Right? Okay. So I go up to the golf club. I'm on the first hole, warming up, and suddenly, literally, I feel
it's coming.
And I thought, oh shit, right, I gotta go, right? And the weird thing, I mean, it's terrible, right? I would never drink and drive.
No.
Smoke and drive.
But you had to get home, I mean, yeah.
But I was stoned,
yeah.
Right? So you make bad decisions.
Yes, of course.
And the funny thing, it was a new car, right?
Yeah, and so did you get home? You got home with it, did you?
Yeah, but did you see the Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah, where they drive this Lamborghini. Yeah.
I was driving at 10
Just see it
miles
in
an
front
hour.
of you. I can just see you being
I was
DiCaprio,
driving.
yeah, driving
Oh,
home.
God. I'm thinking like, because I didn't know which would be worse, to be pulled over by the police or to, I'm driving like this. And I kept thinking of the guy in Wolf of Wall Street hitting
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the men.
yeah.
I mustn't hit a
No,
fence. I
no, you
mustn't
can't
hit
end up
that.
like that. No.
So anyway, I got home and I was just, boom, gone for about
Oh,
12 hours. And then I thought, whoa, I mean, that was weird, right? That was
oh God,
weird,
yeah.
right? And then, so the next day, I took a little bit less. And then the World Cup was starting. So I thought I'd take a little bit more, right? Then World Cup, so this is the summer of 2014. And I took a little bit more. And so, because I knew the effect lasts about 8-10 hours.
Was that on your
right?
tongue then, or?
Yeah, just swallow it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You can put
Yeah.
it on your tongue. Now I do it all differently. Now
Yeah,
I
yeah.
dilute it in
Yeah.
an oil, a carrier oil, and
Yeah.
now I'm a kind of an expert on the
Yeah, yeah, of
subject.
course.
You got to say there was nothing on the internet.
No, so you're just trying your
Right?
way forward, aren't you? I mean,
Yeah,
just,
there was no
no.
information, so it was just an experiment.
Yeah.
So I took some and went to sleep. So what I would do is I would say the World Cup match would start at 9. I would take it before the match,
Yeah.
and then it would start to affect me 2 hours later,
Yeah.
just at the end,
Yeah.
and I'd go to bed. So that
Yeah.
was going to be my plan all during the World Cup.
Yeah.
And so so I go to bed, right, and fall asleep, and then I wake up and there's Grim Reapers on the ceiling and
Oh God.
and horses. And so they go, okay, right. The Grim Reapers tell me, because as I said to you, I was worried how the end might come, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Right? He's doing it. So come there. Right? No.
Yeah, yeah.
It's too late. So I was worried about how the end would come.
Yes, yes.
Right? And so the Grim Reapers were telling me to end it now. Go down to the kitchen, get a knife, kill myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
because you were under influence.
Yeah, no, it was all right. So it goes. So I called Jeanette. I go, what time is it? Right? Because I was hoping it was about 5 a.m. or something. Because I was not. And she said, oh, it's only 11:30. So that meant I had this, these kind of, because it was psychosis, and I would have this for the next 10 hours. I thought, oh my God, that'd be,
You can't cope with that, no.
So then I had the paranoia as well. So I was convinced, because I was hyperventilating, and so my chest was tightening, but I thought
you're taking far too much then. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, but I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yes,
right?
Of course, yeah.
So Jeanette was kind of saying, oh, you want a drink? You want this, right? I said, no, I'm having a heart attack. So at about 3 a.m.,
yeah,
she decides she's going to call the ambulance.
Yeah.
Right? So they go, okay, right? So they speak, she puts the ambulance person on the phone to me, and I talk to him. And so we're clinicians. We can describe someone having a heart attack.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So the paranoia, I was having a heart attack. I could describe perfectly my symptoms.
But the paranoia.
And I was about to die. So she goes, oh, it's going to take an ambulance about 20 minutes to get there, right? And it was, but we could get a paramedic on a motorbike here in 5. I says, too late, I'm gone, right? So in my head, at that moment, I died. I really thought.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember thinking, dying isn't too bad. It's like just falling asleep, going off, And this was the weird thing, because she goes, then I come round, right? So it's about 15 minutes later, and I feel this man pulling on my arm, right?
Yeah.
And I hear him saying to Jeanette, he's not dead, he's stoned, right? And I'm trying to open my eyes, but the light in the bedroom is directly over the bed. I'm like looking up, And the paramedic goes, now turn out the light. So they turn out the light. And so the light is now coming from the hallway behind him.
Yeah.
And so I open my eyes, and there, sitting on my bed in his green paramedic uniform, is a man with long hair and a beard. I mean, you couldn't.
Of course, you think, no, no.
And I go, but funny thing, I go from like being, because now I'm not paranoid. I've recovered from the psychosis. Now I'm just normal stone. And I start laughing. And I go, no wonder I thought I was dying. Look at him. He looks like, because I'm going to Jeanette. He looks like fucking Jesus. And Jeanette, who's a city lawyer and a Miss Goody Two-Shoes, is mortified because she's called. The ambulance hasn't even arrived yet.
No.
And I'm laughing at this guy because he's got long hair and a beard and looks like Jesus. So then the ambulance comes. And I go, all right. And I go, how can you have a paramedic that looks like Jesus, huh? Imagine you get knocked over in the motorway and you think, oh, I'm not dead. And he's standing up, you're going to die of a heart attack, right? And it was such a weird experience.
Yeah, man.
Because I was laughing. And
yeah, of course.
And I knew at that point that the cannabis was different. And I was saying to them, hey, man, I've had all this chemotherapy, but it's never affected me like this.
No.
And I was joking to them, like the house was going to be like Lourdes, in France, where sick people go.
Yeah.
And so because someone got cured there. So I said, I've got cured here. But in the Catholic Church, for a miracle to be proven, you have to have witnesses. And so the paramedics and the ambulance driver were going to be my witnesses. So I was going to give me, so our house was going to be like a shrine. And the paramedics were going to be working because I would give them all jobs, much better paid than getting an ambulance. And they were all laughing. I mean, because it was obviously a more pleasant call out visiting me than other ones they do.
Yeah, that they have.
And I was going to give them all.
Yes.
So they were all going to get jobs in my shrine, and they would they would stand at the door and tell people how they'd witnessed it. And then the people would come and they would touch me and they would be cured.
Oh, God.
and this is the kind of conversation. We're going to make so much money. And we're going to say, because I'd shown him Jimmy's snow dome, right? And we could we could make a fortune selling these snow domes.
Yes, with your face on
and the autographed dinner mats with Leonardo and me, the Last Supper.
You had it all worked out there then.
I mean, it was kind of weird lying there. And they were just going, would they take me into the hospital? Would they? And we didn't know. And we were talking about it. And
No,
and
man,
so,
what a story.
Yeah. And so,
you've just been continuing with the use of it then? You still do it today?
No. Not the same way. So I took it.
No, but you still use cannabis today.
Oh, yeah. I took it I took a gram then. I built up my tolerance.
Yeah.
And actually, no, because what after that night, I was like, I got to find out, right? And I found a discussion forum on Facebook, and it's called Cannabis Oil Success Stories.
Okay, yeah.
And so I went there and I told my story, and I said, I couldn't deal with this psychosis on a regular basis. And they were, well, you took too much. And it was weird. And there was a lot of really good information people. These were all cancer and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they told me how to make suppositories and to take it rectal.
Yeah.
And so when I was taking a gram a night, I was taking it like I'd made these suppositories,
capsules,
with the gram of oil in it. So
that was a lot better, yeah.
Yeah, so I took that every night for about 2 more months, because that's what Rick Simpson says. You got to take 60 grams over a 3-month period, right? That's
okay,
he's the kind of guru, right? Because now, you see, it's kind of weird. lots of medical people are trying to take credit, and they're doing research, and
Oh,
their
yes, yes, yes.
GW Pharmaceuticals
Yeah,
did it for multiple sclerosis and this, right?
yeah, yeah,
The guy who put cannabis on the map as a treatment and went to jail
yeah,
is Rick Simpson, without
yeah,
a shadow of a doubt,
yeah.
right? Because
Canadian guy, yeah?
yeah, because last year I went to there was a seminar at the British Medical Association with three medical doctors talking about cannabis. And so I went to it, right, to hear what they had to say. And they were talking about cannabis and headaches, and, they knew it. But
Mm.
I realized, they weren't that knowledgeable, right? And then I said, well, do you know anything about cannabis for cancer as a maintenance dose? And they didn't want to go there, right? And it's because cannabis is, cancer is a
It's
multi-billion-dollar business,
it's
and they
what,
didn't
yeah.
want to go,
No.
and they wouldn't be drawn either because they were Canadian. So I wanted to, well, what do you think of Rick Simpson? Because bear in mind, these were doctors. It's only
Yeah,
been legalized 2 years ago.
yeah.
So they've only been dabbling with it and seeing amazing results with their patients for the last 2 years,
Short period
right?
of time, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Rick Simpson's been doing this. I've been doing this now since, I first latched onto it and started
Yes,
reading
yes.
about it and
Yeah,
growing it since 2013.
yeah.
So you kind of start to realize who the experts are. And the
Yes.
experts are the guys with the piercings and the dreads who've
Yeah,
been growing
yeah.
it for
Yeah,
40,
and who's
50
been
years.
using it for so long, yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
not the medical profession have just started dabbling with it.
Yes, of
They've just
course.
tipped the iceberg. And see, this is the funny thing, because one of the high profile areas is the kids with epilepsy, right?
Yeah, there have
And
been a
in this
few
country,
cases in the medias about kids in
so
the
yeah,
UK.
so
Yeah,
what happened was the woman who got the law changed in this country, her name is Hannah Deacon.
yeah.
So in 2016, she rang me, right? And she said, she wanted to know about it because she'd heard it might help her son who had epilepsy.
Yes, I read about that in the news also.
And I said, well, I said, look, you couldn't give a child the stuff I was taking, because the stuff I was taking is the skunk stuff. And it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
that's
forced
strong.
because
That's really strong.
that's the stuff you get in the street. But for cancer, it needs to be high THC. That
Yeah,
seems to what works best.
yeah,
So it was easier to get and know what you were getting. So by now, I was getting lots of calls from people who wanted to take cannabis for cancer. And I was uncomfortable referring to drug dealers to tell them to find a
yeah.
drug
Because you
dealer.
don't know what they're going to get, do you?
Well, exactly, right? So, and I had found a pharmacy in Holland that was said they were extracting cannabis oil for patients. So I thought, well, I'll go there, right? So I went there and met the pharmacist, but he was doing it for kids with epilepsy, right? And he was just starting. And this is the big company who's making Bedrolite, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that
yeah,
they're all gone. And
yeah,
he had just started.
yeah,
And it was weird, the discussion, because he didn't bat an eye. I told him my story, right? So this is now 2015.
yeah,
Okay. So, and I haven't died, and I had a scan and I'm clear,
yeah,
right? Okay. And he wasn't at all surprised, right? But he said, look, if we were to get involved with anything like that, it would just bring the whole thing down. And we've got little, it's almost like a cottage industry. And he's supplying it for this neurologist who's dealing with kids with epilepsy. And they're getting great results,
yeah,
right? Now, at this stage, the cannabis, he showed me, it was in a cardboard box, because this is a regular pharmacy. So
yeah, yeah,
you buy your normal drugs and
yeah,
outside.
yeah,
But inside, he had this little box and he had these little bottles, which were for patients of this neurologist,
yeah,
kids with epilepsy,
yeah,
and they were getting great results. So when I came out, so while I was disappointed he wasn't able to help me,
yeah.
he was what Hannah Deacon needed. So I called her, and he'd give me loads of research papers and everything. I called her, and she and the kid moved there for in I think it was 2016 for about 6 months, 5 months or
Had
so.
the treatment there then, yeah.
well, the treatment was just giving them the
Oh
oil,
yeah, yeah,
right? They go to
yeah, exactly.
they moved to, because we were still in the EU, they were able to move to The Hague,
Yeah,
sign up with the neurologist
yeah,
who would prescribe the cannabis. Now,
yeah.
this is a kid that was having 300 seizures a month or something.
Oh God.
He was in A&E every week.
Yeah.
He had no quality of life,
No.
and it just transformed his life, right? And it's interesting looking back at the correspondent, because it took probably a month before she started seeing noticeable results.
Yeah.
And like she was kind of, and because she'd be really depressed and she'd put it on Facebook, and I'd be saying, "Oh, hang in there,"
Yeah. 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 Of
and
course. Yeah.
it was just, because in 2000, when she came back, then she started a petition and she got like 400,000 signatures, and she presented it to Theresa May at 10 Downing Street, and she asked me to go, some members of her family and people, to go with her that day, because I said, "Look, I don't want to be an activist or anything like this. I don't, you know, it for me, it's just my story,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Of course. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
kind of say, I don't talk like, oh, I discovered the cure for cancer,
No. No.
or
No. That's not. Yeah.
it 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 seems to have worked. It seems to have, whatever, one wants to say, why am I free of cancer? I have no idea, right?
No.
I
No. It's
I
difficult. I mean,
I
to
think
yeah.
it's a combination of things, but how I look at it from a physiological point of view,
Yeah.
because how can this plant that seems to help so many unrelated conditions, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis,
Yeah.
cancer,
Yeah.
epilepsy,
Yeah.
migraines,
Yeah.
how can it work on such a wide range? Because they have nothing in common. And the scientists are looking at it at cellular level. I don't look at it at that cellular level. I look at it at the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah. We got cannabinoid receptors in our body.
Well,
So
yes, but the cannabinoid receptors are not that different for when you're talking about how endorphins
No.
affect
No.
you,
No.
that
No.
high and
Yeah.
running,
Yeah.
when you feel good, when you have sex or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're elate, and
Yeah.
you're, so if you look at it, if you forget about, because that's how the medics want to look at it.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
There is this endocannabinoid system
Yeah.
that, and we have receptors for
Yeah.
him, and you can explain it like that. But
Yeah.
that's reductionist science.
Yeah.
If you look at it in terms of how, say, chiropractors look, how, we would look, and you have the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
And so you're in either sympathetic or parasympathetic.
Parasympathetic. Yes.
So when you're in a disease state,
Yeah.
things are getting out of control.
Yeah.
And we know the body has ability to heal and self-regulate.
Yes.
It's called negative feedback loop.
Yeah.
But when you're in a pathological state, that's a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
It's going out, and that's sympathetic. It's fight or flight. It makes you, and the more they tell you you're ill or dying, you get more into sympathetic.
Yeah.
You can't sleep at
No.
night. You're stressed.
Yeah. More
All the
cortisol,
things
more
that cause the
adrenaline.
original problem. Okay, you take cannabis, you sleep 12 hours like a log. You are gone, and it takes you into this
Parasympathetic
state.
more. Yeah.
Parasympathetic,
Yeah.
digestion,
Yeah.
the munchies. You just
Yeah.
want to eat. You
Yeah.
want to sleep. You
Yeah.
want to relax.
Yeah.
You want to chill. It's
Yeah.
quite interesting when you look at it in terms of, so after my first lot of cancer, I got training for a marathon. And the second time, I take loads of cannabis where
It's
I'm
completely
just,
opposite. Yes.
yeah. I just want to lie in the sofa,
Yeah.
watch daytime TV,
And
eat
relax.
crisps,
Yes. Yeah.
and I put on weight, and I was just so chilled out. And I think I look back and I think that's how you explain it. It allows the body to readapt.
So it's not the cannabis itself. It's not the THC necessarily itself that does it. It's the effect it has on the body and your nervous system.
I mean, obviously, I think the high level of THC seems to have an anti-tumoral effect.
Yeah.
Right. But when you you kind of look back. The big difference, because in the second phase, I did have more radiotherapy. It's called CyberKnife, right?
Yeah, I know that one.
And
Yeah.
that did kind of fry the tumors around the aorta, as the radiotherapy did the first time in 2011.
Yeah.
Because when they operated on me, there was no viable tissue to even do a biopsy on, because the radiotherapy had
I killed it
completely
all.
fried
Yeah.
it, right? Well, it had fried
It
it.
burned it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But the cells had migrated, were already in my blood, and they were trying to seed elsewhere. That's why they did the chemotherapy, to stop them growing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Okay. So in that first year, after the surgery,
Yeah.
radiotherapy, I had 12 cycles of chemo,
Yeah.
right? But the fact the cancer came back after probably only 8 months suggests, well, that didn't really work very
No.
well.
No. No.
So the second time, the big difference was I stopped chemo
Yeah.
and tried cannabis
Yes. Yeah.
instead, even though that wasn't the immediate aim to do.
No.
And so this time, the cancer never came back,
No.
right? Or the cells never said, I
Came.
mean,
Yeah.
I can't say, next year they won't or whatever.
No. No. You
But
can't foresee the future. No.
no, but in the funny thing, in 2017, one night I was going to bed and I got terrible abdominal pains and I started vomiting bile.
Oh God.
And
You
I
saw
thought,
it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah. Here we
Okay.
go again.
But to be fair, I was thinking, my first thought, shit, it's back. This is it. But I've gone, this is 2017.
So
And,
you already
so
gone
I've
past.
gone,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I've gone past all the goals,
Yes.
right? That I'd say I've gone
Yeah.
over 4 years.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'll take that, right?
Yeah.
So we went to A&E. They admitted me straight away with the history. They put me in a ward, right? All these old people, because
Ugh.
when I first went in, I was a private patient. I had my own room. Everything was lovely, right? And now I'm in a, because I'm 60,
Yeah, you're
so
an old man now. You have to be with the old.
yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
like the other old men, they're really,
Geriatric ward. Yes. Yeah. Oh, God.
nurse, lift the bed up, nurse, open
Yes.
the window, nurse, and like you couldn't sleep because the other four guys are going on all night, right? So it was funny because the doctors come in the morning, so they've got my file on a computer. They wheel it around, so it's like they see the diagnosis,
Yeah. Okay. And adding
but
two and two together. Yeah.
and I stopped the chemo,
Yeah.
and they're like, and I'm in the bed, and
Yeah.
it's 2017. I mean, how come I am here? And like I didn't die. And
Yes.
so I tell them, well, I tell them the cannabis star. If I'd have told them I was a pedophile, they would have been more receptive. It was like, that's ridiculous. Don't be stupid. Of course, cannabis that couldn't
That's
have,
no.
Yeah, they
Completely
couldn't.
dismissive.
And,
Yeah.
and the weird thing, they did all the scans and everything, and it turned out I had a gallstone, right? And that's because it was weird, because I embraced a Mediterranean diet, right? And because there was a lot of olive
Or
oil,
a lot of fat. Yeah.
cheese, so that caused me to have a gallstone, right? So I had to change my diet again, right? And the other thing, because I get terrible gout, right? And so I had to change my diet again, because the chemo, apparently, I never knew this, that can cause you to have really bad gout. And that's been a nightmare in recent years. I get
the gout.
attacks because, trying to run and stuff. And so in the end, I had to give, because I tried to manage it, looking at my food. And then you think like, oh, and then you find spinach, Popeye spinach has purines in it.
Yeah, yeah, of
which
course. So
trigger
that's right.
gout.
You
Or
can't
cauliflower,
metabolize it very well. No.
fish, healthy fish like cod has bloody purines in it.
Oh
I mean, you
God.
wouldn't believe
No,
some
no,
of
you
the
wouldn't.
foods I can't eat because of gout. And trust me, you can imagine the surgery, all the pain I've had in my life. Nothing nothing compares with the pain of gout. It's like someone holding a lighter under your
Your big
foot
toe.
or joint and
Yeah.
burning. I mean, like, okay, can you see my hand?
Yeah.
That's gout. Can
Yeah.
you see how
Okay,
deformed?
that's gout, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's gout. All right. Because I adjust. You do cervical adjustment with the hand.
Yeah,
So
you do, yeah.
the combination
Of the
of
pressure and
our degeneration
and
and
gout.
purines, and it just sets off a gout attack. You usually get in your big toe, those
Yeah.
joints that you use a lot, right? You know. So I started taking a drug called allopurinol,
Yeah.
and I take that every day,
That helps.
and it reduces the purines, and so
Oh
I haven't
God.
had any attacks. So all
Unbelievable.
yeah. So and it's annoying, and that is all related to the original tree. I mean, it's you see how once you get into the, if you like, I'd never been ill, never had
No.
antibiotics, never vaccinated my children. I mean, never gave them Calpol. I don't take anti-inflammatory, none of that kind of stuff. And suddenly, you're because you've had this treatment, your body starts falling apart.
Yeah, but I mean, my mom had a brain tumor, a pituitary brain tumor when I was a little kid, and she had a shunt operated in.
Right.
And she got epileptic fits because of the shunt and so on. And she died in her late 50s, early 60s from the side effects. Because she was put on epileptic medicine for many, many years. And it was really strong medicine. So she became very passive. She was like that for 10 years, did lose interest in her grandkids and so on, because she really lost interest in everything. They changed the medicine from one day to another. She was a completely different woman. She basically woke up again. She started polishing her silverware. She got a dog and so on. And it was that huge change from being passive in so many years to suddenly being completely active. She went to bed with a smile on her lip one night and didn't wake up again. And we kind of put that down to that huge change in activity and so on. So, I mean, it's often side effects, the from the treatment itself,
but,
you kind of suffer from.
I'm kind of philosophical. I've had so much radiotherapy, CAT scans. I mean, it's funny, right? Because someone was telling me, right? A CAT scan is like having, I don't know, did he say 70 or 700 x-rays?
Yeah, chest X. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, it's high dose.
Yeah, when you think of the way we were about taking x-rays and exposure and avoiding getting out of the room.
Yes, and then you get a CT scan and then you are a CAT scan.
I've had PET scans, which is even more. I mean, it's kind of, so I figure.
You're glowing in the dark there,
yeah. Yeah. What?
Yeah, you're glowing in the dark, really, yeah.
It's just, I'm kind of philosophical. Hey, I've lived way longer, right? So, for whatever reason, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, you think it's a combination of the things you've had, basically, then, and your positive attitude.
Okay, people contact me. I mean, do you remember Steve Carpenter?
Yeah, I know Steve Carpenter.
Yeah, he's just been diagnosed with, advanced cancer, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
And I think about it. So he's going, and it's funny. So he rang me, and he's going my way, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, and I say to him, look, get as much of the cancer out of your body as possible, whether you do that with surgery or radiotherapy. Because my analogy, it's a bit like the ship heading for the iceberg, the Titanic. And it's going to take time to turn it around. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And, you're not. So you hear all these people say, oh, start a ketogenic diet or this diet. Or,
yeah.
I mean, there are so many stories. Like, you may not have the time to turn it. I have no doubt if I had known when I first had the colonoscopy, if I had changed my diet like I have, because while I said to you, I was obsessed the first few years about what you'd call an anti-cancer diet.
Yeah.
Now I'm more relaxed about it. I like coffee. So I don't like coffee without a spoon of sugar.
Oh.
Right? So that meant that year I didn't drink coffee at all,
No.
right? But I like a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So I'll have a spoon of sugar in it, right?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have fizzy drinks.
No.
I wouldn't have, I like a bacon sandwich, right? Now, I used to have bacon every morning most morning for breakfast. I'd go to one of those cafes and I'd have an English breakfast.
Yeah, with sausage.
But now maybe I might have it once, twice a month, a bacon sandwich.
Yeah.
I like ice cream. So in that first year, I didn't touch ice cream. I love ice cream, especially Italian. So when I went to Italy the day after the diagnosis, because I was so skinny from running the marathon and everything and just eating healthily, I ate ice cream by the buckets because I was dying.
Dived into a top of ice cream, yeah.
Oh, it was like Italy, and I hadn't announced that I got this diagnosis. So people were seeing me pictures every day eating because I'd been promoting the healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
No ice cream, no sugar, lots of vegetables and fruit and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
But every day in Italy, they were seeing me with ice cream. I put in 2 weeks in Italy, I put on 2 kilos, man, right? From all the ice cream I ate. So
unbelievable.
So the conclusion I came, the most important thing is to be happy, right? You've got a diagnosis, because a lot of young people bring their parents who've been diagnosed with cancer, and like they're forcing them in. And these are people who've never smoked weed or nothing, and they're forcing them to do what Richard did, and they don't want to do it. And they shouldn't do it. Because they're going to be frightened because it's illegal, and they're going to be frightened of getting high.
And it's their mental. If it affects their mentality.
Yeah. See, yes. You can't make someone comfortable with taking cancer for an ailment. They've got to be. So it all comes back to what I was saying. You're either in sympathetic stress,
yes,
or you're parasympathetic.
Yes.
So it's how do you get your physiology into this happy, relaxed, you listen to music. I can't meditate. My mind, I tried meditation, chanting, but my mind would wander, right? But I found we got a dog, and my son got me an iPod, and I put I hadn't listened to music for 20 years.
No.
So all the music I liked, which is from the 60s and 70s, is on my iPod, because I wouldn't get the same pleasure out of listening to today's music or rapping or whatever. But listening to Pink Floyd reminds me of when I was young, when I was happy, when I was having fun. Even listening to the Beatles, David Bowie, all this kind of stuff. And that took me back to when I was happy and young.
Yeah.
And that's my meditation, going out, walking the dog.
You should listen to Professor Andrew Huberman. He's a professor in science, neuroscience in Stanford University. He does an enormous amount of podcasts. He's just been on a podcast with Joe Rogan not so long ago.
What's his name?
Andrew Huberman. Huberman. Andrew. Huberman. Huberman. I'll send you a link. I mean, he is absolutely. He's
because it's funny. I listen to loads of podcasts, but they're all black basketball.
He is. I mean, he is just so amazing. He researches in how to make yourself happy by using your own neurotransmitters and neuromodulators in his brain.
Yeah, no, I'm really interested in listening to that stuff because it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's absolutely mind-boggling. I mean,
because I sent you a link to Mary Biles. She does the blogs and she talks to really interesting people.
Yeah.
But that's the only one I probably listen to in terms of health, right? Because I love NBA basketball.
Yeah.
And
so you listen to a lot of that. Another one is maybe
because again, what I say, happiness.
Yeah.
I think everything I've learned about life, I learned on a football field.
Yeah.
How social interactions, having fun, being up, being down, not getting too locked up in disappointment because happiness could be just a goal or two away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's what he does research in. That's what he does research in, happiness and
Well,
how to. Yeah, it's
well,
really
yeah, but
interesting.
that's, I mean, that's the thing, if you like, what I think about my own case,
Yeah,
but I don't understand why am I alive when they all said I was gonna die.
yeah, of
And you
course.
kind of think, and so while everybody is focusing on the cannabis, I actually think the cannabis facilitates
Yeah,
me
it's a
chilling
tool.
out,
It was a
being
tool.
relaxed.
It was a how.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Being happy. And
yeah,
that's the thing I tell everybody
yeah.
who, yeah. And, because I don't drink alcohol, never
No,
liked the taste much,
no, I don't
right?
drink alcohol
So,
either. So,
so anything that was kind of good at taking me into that
zone.
relaxed state
That's
was
zone.
going to
Yeah,
be good. Yeah.
yeah,
So, no, I'm interested in that.
yeah. And another one you should maybe listen to is Dr. Rhonda Patrick, because she does research. I sponsor her in America also. She's just a researcher, and she does a lot of
Rhonda
research.
Patrick.
Dr. Rhonda Patrick.
Yeah.
These two people, I just listened to a few podcasts of theirs, so just look them up. I mean, very interesting individual.
Well, as I say, that's what this is about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
about
No,
the human physiology
theology. Yeah,
has an ability to heal. There's a really good Netflix, actually, yeah, it's a Netflix documentary called Heal. Have you
heal.
seen it?
No, I haven't
Heal.
seen that. No, I will see
Oh, no,
that.
yeah, I'll tell you what's interesting about it, because the woman who makes it, Kelly Gores,
Yeah,
she's obviously a rich, blonde LA woman
yeah.
who married this guy with loads of money, and she said, "Honey, give me $2 million to make a movie," right? Okay, but she was also a chiropractic patient, and while they don't talk about chiropractic in it, the
No.
doctors she's talking to this doctor and that guy, they've all DCs behind their name. They don't actually mention chiropractic, right?
No, no. Okay.
And, and this is the interesting thing, and it's the kind of weird thing about me and the cancer, right?
Yeah,
When I was first diagnosed, I was thinking like a medical person, and reductionist,
yeah.
and them treating the cancer. It was only after I started getting the symptoms again that I actually started thinking like a chiropractor and applying the principles,
Suppose
if you
yes.
like,
Yeah,
of the philosophy
yeah.
of how the body can
If
heal itself,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That we think about. As I said, I'm watching the Rick Simpson video and thinking, that's a load of shit. And then I'm thinking, Jesus, I could make a video like that as a car if I,
yeah, 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 yeah,
because we see weird stuff
yeah.
that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
We
Yeah,
see it all the time,
yeah,
and a medical person say, "Oh, that chiropractic is a load of shit," right?
yeah. It just dismisses
How
it. Yeah, yeah,
how can it do all that? Like I have a woman. She swore blind that it was my chiropractor. She was infertile, right?
yeah,
But we when Jeanette wanted to get married, we had to go and do IVF. So
yeah, yeah.
obviously chiropractic on
Ca-
that particular, it's like Harvey Lillard.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
people went to all the deaf people went to visit Dee Palmer, and none
yeah,
of them had their hearing cured,
yeah,
but it helped their back pain, their neck pain, their eyes, that things like
yeah,
their
yeah,
blood pressure, and
yeah, yeah.
nobody. But it's like some people do well with cannabis,
Some
some
don't.
people do less well,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're kind of thinking. So there's more to it
Then that.
than.
Yes.
But I would say I've helped about 20 people who had terminal cancer,
Yeah,
because they come. It's at the end. They've done all the medical stuff and whatever, and then
and
they
they're
say,
willing to
sorry,
try everything else.
that
Yeah,
then they ring me up,
yeah,
right? And so all of them have done better than they had if they'd have just not done anything. So
yeah,
I would say it's helped.
yeah,
2 people are alive,
yeah,
right? And most of them, they were afraid to take the dosage that I took.
yeah.
So basically, they're taking it, and it's small amounts, and it's helping them sleep, and they're pleased with it, but they're afraid to
To
take
take the
a
bigger
gram,
dose. Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're going to have psychosis. I had psychosis 3 times. I had the paranoia. And that
Yes.
whole summer,
Yeah.
I didn't like taking it. It wasn't like when you're smoking a joint and you feel
Yeah.
good.
No.
It was the only time when I was going to bed every night after the football, I knew I'm going to die. It was the only time I would think like that.
Yeah. Yes. Of
Because
course. Yeah.
the cannabis, the strong amount of cannabis made me paranoid.
Yeah. Of course. I think it would
Now
make
it's
anybody. Yeah. Yeah.
now it's fine.
Yeah. Because you're
You know,
used to the dose now. Yeah.
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 But I didn't particularly enjoy it
No.
during that period. So
No.
the
I can imagine
idea,
so.
the idea it would have turned me into, a kind of heroin addict. It was the gateway drug. Like, no way, man.
No.
Because,
No.
right?
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's when people talk like that, it's kind of laughable, or
Yeah,
it's
it's
going to
because
damage
people
your
don't know
brain.
necessarily anything about it, and they've read a little
Exactly.
bit
But
about it. And,
it's like, oh, they won't give it as a prescription to the kids with epilepsy on the NHS.
no,
Like it might, do this, that, but they don't know.
no, they don't.
Right?
It's
But
it's
they give this
guesswork.
other shit that damages their brains.
Yeah, which is often toxic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Think of all the damage
yeah,
chemotherapy and radio did to me, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And it was funny because when I got diagnosed, because at first they thought, no, it's not a malignant melanoma,
No,
right? So I got, that. And so even the guy cutting it out to biopsy it didn't think it was, right? So they said they'd just send me a letter, right? Because it was so early. They would send me a letter with the results of the biopsy, right? So the letter, I was expecting the letter at the end of the week. I get a phone call on the Monday, right? Could you come in on Wednesday, right? And I go, for what, right? Oh, the results of your tests. I said, oh, but they said we're going to send them to me. And he goes, no, it's better you could come in
yeah,
and you
yeah,
bring someone with you.
Oh God.
So
Yes.
this will make you laugh. This will make you laugh, right? So I go, okay, right. But I didn't. I'm by now, right? I have terminal cancer. So if I've
It
got
can't get any worse, can it?
exactly right, I was supposed to this last
Yeah.
month, right? So I go in, right, and so the woman's there, and she goes, right. So this is the first time I've met the person to do with skin cancer, right? Yeah. Okay. So she says, and she's doing a research study on how people respond to being told they got cancer, right? You couldn't make this up.
No.
So I go, yeah, okay. So she goes, it's, yeah, I'm afraid the result wasn't good. It's a malignant melanoma. So I go, okay. And she said, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about that? And I said, 2.
10 being the worst, yeah?
Yeah, like 10 being the worst, right? So I said 2. And she goes, you realize it's cancer? And I go, yeah. And you're only giving it 2 because it's obviously messing up the whole statistical analysis.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
What she was trying to do.
Yeah.
And you're only giving it 2. And I go, yeah. But I said, yeah, if you'd read my notes, you'd know I was supposed to die last month. So you telling me I've got, an early stage malignant melanoma isn't really going to happen. And she goes, you've already got cancer. And I go, yeah. And I felt really sorry for her.
Yeah, because you didn't know, does he, obviously?
Didn't know. Because my notes are like, if you look at them, whenever I go in with the cancer,
it comes in on a trolley. Yeah.
And see, when I was original in the system, I was a private patient. So they have more time to talk and think. I mean, when you see the NHS in action, it is impressive. Especially in the Marsden, there's so many coming in, falling through.
Constantly.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You have 10 minutes. You have a 10-minute slot for your radiotherapy, and there's 4 machines going, right? Okay, and they are going all of the time.
Yeah.
And again, when I was having the radiotherapy originally, and I always remember this, and I didn't mention it, in relation to, again, the mental part. One day, so when you have radiotherapy, you have to, on your pelvis, you
Yeah.
have to drink nearly 2 liters of water, because it expands your bladder,
Okay.
and the
Yeah.
water absorbs a lot of the radiation,
Yeah.
doesn't damage the tissue, and
No.
you wee it out straight away
Yeah.
after you've had the
Yeah.
radiotherapy, right? So said, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it said connection lost, I think.
No, no, I'm here. Yeah.
So this day, so when you go in to have the radiotherapy, you're really bursting for a piss,
Yes, of
right?
course.
And you're kind of in the machine for just a few minutes,
Yeah.
and then you just run out and go to the toilet.
Yeah.
So this day, the nurse comes out to me and she goes, okay, would you mind if someone went ahead of you in the queue? And I go, yeah, I wouldn't mind. I'm bursting. I can't hold it much longer, right? And she said, well, I'm sorry. You're going to have to wait, right? And I'm like, I am not a happy bunny. And then
No.
I see the patient that's jumping ahead of me. It's a kid. The kid's they've brought him down from the hospital.
Yeah.
And the kid's in the bed, right? So they're wheeling him in for the
Yeah.
radiotherapy in the bed. And his parents, now I don't know if it was a boy or a girl because it was bold,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So the kid was about 7 or 8, right? And the parents are with him. And you could see the mother had been crying because all the mascara is running down her face,
Yeah.
right? And you're and I'm moaning because I'm bursting for a piss, and you know I might piss in my pants.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's.
you can see, and that was a point again, another milestone where I thought, Jesus, I'm glad it's me and not one of the kids, because I could handle this.
I can't
you
cope
know
with kids being in that kind of situation.
Well, exactly. See, I could make fun. I could
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I would lie in front of a train for my children.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And we have
you
had
know,
a bit of a life. They haven't had any
yeah,
life. Yeah.
exactly. This was, and weirdly enough, yeah, you know, Frederick in 2017, Frederick's sister died from leukemia, and she'd been diagnosed the same time as me. And when we were on one of the holidays in South Africa, she was only 17. She was 15 when she was diagnosed.
Oh.
And then and when we were in South Africa, it was kind of weird because I hadn't been friendly with Frederick's mother for a number of years. And but she'd asked me, because she knew I was doing so well with the chemo, so she asked me to text and message Tia, who was really struggling with it. And she lost her hair, and young girl, and it was horrible. And I remember the night she died, we were on holiday in South Africa, and Frederick called me, and it was really weird because I'd been looking at Frederick. Frederick had gone to the James Bond movie, the latest James Bond movie. And he'd written, "My name is Bond, James Bond." He'd posted on Facebook, and he was going to the movie. And when he got back, Tia had died, and she just fell asleep. And I remember, and he called me, right? And Joan she couldn't communicate. She wanted to talk to me, but she couldn't communicate. No. She was like howling, like she just couldn't get words out.
No, awful.
I have never, when people talk about pain, I saw pain. I never had pain like Joan had that night.
No.
And her daughter died. And so I always felt lucky. And people go like, how can you feel lucky? You had cancer. Because it was me and not one of the children.
Not one of the others. No, exactly.
And so it's things like that put things into perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would have been young to die. My mother
of course. Yeah, but my mom was that age,
Exactly. And I think it's important when we talk about illness and stuff. And so the one word I haven't mentioned until now is luck. So you got the fortune teller.
Yeah.
And being lucky.
Yeah.
And you think, wow, that's a kind of a different story.
Of course.
It's not about treating the cancer with cannabis You know, it's that I've been extremely lucky. I have a great family
Mm.
and friends who never treated me like a patient.
No,
They didn't treat me any different
no,
because nobody took the piss more than I did.
no,
And so even, you know, where people say, oh, that's terrible.
yeah,
Richard's not well.
no.
He's vulnerable.
But you
And
are
then Jim,
you are just a very amazing individual. I mean, because
well,
you
yeah,
have
and
a
you,
sense of humor. You have, you know.
yeah. And so
And,
when Jimmy Cosgrave makes this snow dome,
yeah, and
I loved it,
the
man. I mean,
table
it was
mates.
just,
Yes.
yeah, it was just funny. And like, what was interesting, because everybody was worried, because when I arrived in the restaurant that night, they were all there. And they were like, you know, this might be a bit sick. You know, but can you imagine if I'd come in and go, oh, Jimmy, I'm dying, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
ain't
How could you do
funny.
this?
That ain't funny, right?
No, but
And it was
they,
brilliant.
yeah,
And and these are the people I think of when I
of
think
course.
why I'm alive.
Yeah,
And
they're part of that.
no, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'll be eternally grateful to Jimmy. I'll be
Yes.
eternally grateful to Jeanette for taking out that health insurance that
Yeah.
got, you know, the
Yeah.
money that allowed
Yes,
me
of
to
course.
have fun and
Yeah.
party and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
worry
Exactly.
about. And I
Richard,
think,
really, I mean, it's amazing what the story is. You know,
yeah,
I
you
think
know,
we should nearly end it on this kind of note because
well,
I
you
think
know,
we could sit here all night with you.
well, we could.
I
The
mean, there's
kids
so
want to
many
watch
things.
the TV. The
Yeah,
kids are going, wait, I can hear them in my ear going, when are you stopping, right? We
yeah,
want to watch,
I know, but
you know.
listen, I could have gone
So,
all night and I
no,
could talk to you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, right?
Listen, man, I mean,
And I'll
it will
tell you, when
help.
the book will be called Cancer Draw Me Up the Wall.
Yes, I was just
And
going to
it,
say, where can people find you and where can they, if they want to
well,
know any
okay,
more?
you can, the blog, look at the blog.
Yeah,
I don't blog every day. I
no,
just blogged at like when I did the wall or
yeah,
when
yeah.
I, that, but the day I thought I was dying from the cannabis
And
and
that's the
kind
blog on
of,
the Richard Lanigan. Is that on
no,
Facebook?
no, it's called rectalcancer.me. And
.me.
that has, I mean, I haven't posted anything for maybe a year or two,
No,
right? I just at major instance, because
yeah,
one of the things, you know, when you go on the internet looking
yeah,
for information about cancer and it's all bad news, and then you find the good news, but the person wrote it a few years ago, and you wonder, oh, maybe they're dead now, right? You know?
yeah, yeah, of
So
course, yeah.
so now every year or so I go onto the blog and say, okay, guys, because I'd intended, you know, but like blogging every day, like you're
Yeah,
that interested
yeah, 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 of
when
course,
you've
yeah.
got cancer or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
you know, like loads of people get cancer.
yeah.
1 in 2 people get cancer. So
Yes, yes,
the
nowadays,
actual
yeah.
disease itself ain't that interesting, but the
No,
fact I didn't die from it
exactly.
is
That's
what's kind of
interesting.
interesting.
You're
So
writing a book. When is that coming out then?
yeah, so hopefully I had hoped that would be finished with the lockdown, but there were so many distractions with the lockdown. I've done 12 chapters, so I've got
Okay.
5 to go.
Yeah,
I think now it's cold
yeah,
because
but
I got really into it last winter when
yeah,
it was cold. So when the weather is nice and you're
yeah.
out
So
having
you might
fun,
finish in early next year then, or
yeah, no, I think I will finish it.
yeah.
I'll finish it this winter. I'm pretty sure because I've done
And
12
has
chapters.
it got a title?
Yeah, cancer drove me up the wall,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but it's like the play on, you know, it's
yeah.
like, I don't know. Well, it's not an expression in Denmark, but it is in
No, yeah,
England.
I know. I mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
know exactly
you
what it
drove me
means.
up the wall. So because that was
I'm
the
married to
original
an English
story.
woman, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, you're still together.
Yes, yes.
I didn't like to ask, right?
No,
Because you're
no,
Danish.
no, no. We are
Danish
still.
marriages.
They don't
Danish
go long.
marriages don't
But
last
I
very
have
long.
told my wife many times, if I hadn't been married to a Danish woman, she would have left years ago.
How do you? Well, of course you would,
She would. She
right?
would
Hey,
have
right?
stood
The
up for
battle
this.
for equality,
Bloody
right?
hell,
I mean,
talking to patients all day, coming home in the evening, not wanting to talk at all because you've given it all to your patients. I mean, you know,
so
nobody would accept that.
how does she like Denmark?
Oh, she loves it here, yeah.
Kan hun tale dansk?
Yeah, no, no, not really. I mean, a bit. Yeah, she understands it very
Because
much.
it's really hard to learn now because everybody speaks English.
Exactly.
You know, everybody speaks English. So you try to learn Danish and they go, oh, I speak very good English, right? You know, let's say you go into a shop and you go, Yavelha.
They all speak English to her, that's why.
Yeah,
So
but
she
that's the
can't.
problem. So it's very difficult to.
Richard, love to talk to you again. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
it
It
was
was good,
great.
right?
This,
Good, right?
you know, I
And
wanted
it's
to
most
talk.
unlikely, like I
Yeah.
go to Copenhagen, but it's most unlikely I'll be ever visiting Sonneborg.
No, I'm coming. I mean, we still have a house in the UK. My oldest son lives over
Oh, you
there, so
do?
we go over there regularly anyway.
What age is he?
He's 27.
Jesus, you got a son. It's kind of weird. Like I
Yeah.
can't believe Frederick is 34.
No, I got my
It's all
second
the
son
kids.
has got Down syndrome. He's 25, and then I got my 19-year-old daughter in the house still.
And where's the kid with Downs?
He's he lives he's moved away from home. He lives in a wonderful place just down the road with 16 other kids with handicaps.
Okay, in Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, like, okay, with any kind of disability, you're far better in Denmark than I mean, it's embarrassing when you see how things are for disabled children.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons we also moved back here again, because it's a completely, I mean, he lives in a perfect place, and he's so happy to be.
Jesus Christ. It just is so enough. When I hear, kind of, oh, Jesus, in this country, they have that universal credit, and they started taking it away from people with disabilities because they could do some work.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, no, you don't want to get me on that.
No. I think your daughter wants to see TV. She's jumping about behind us. She was. So they're going to fall asleep in a minute. Richard,
anyway, it was great.
Listen,
I'll catch up with you soon.
I'm
glad you enjoyed it. Right? So let me know how well it goes down. I hope I made people laugh.
Yeah, you did, man. You definitely made me laugh.
No, we were getting too serious at the end.
Yeah, we were.
Talking about politics and British, the way they look after this.
Listen, I will look you up when I come over to England next. Hopefully,
we'll meet up and give it. Give my love to her, because I met her. Because remember, I went to the opening of the gym in the clinic.
You did, yeah.
And I met her a couple of times then, because she invited me.
Yeah, she's still here with me.
Because she did all your paperwork and phone.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. Richard, send my love to your family also. Yeah.
I will. Okay. Good.
Take care, mate. Bye.
Bye.